session this evening. So thank you all for coming tonight. Individuals may address the board on agenda items in both closed session and regular session agenda during public participation and or at the time the items are under consideration by filling out the form provided on the table, the pink forms, and submitting them to Anna when you're finished. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual and 20 minutes per topic, and speakers will be chosen in random order. Each person may only speak once per agenda topic and is required to address the board from the podium so that the public at home can hear. And public comment cannot be acted upon or discussed by the board unless placed on an agenda at a subsequent item in accordance with the Brown Act. The board may request staff to respond orally tonight at the meeting or in writing at a future time. And this meeting is videoed and broadcast on the FBUSD YouTube channel. And then I will ask that you please silence your phones at this time so that we give everyone our undivided attention. Okay. So do we have any public participation on non-agenda items this evening? Anything you want to share with us that's not on the agenda? Moving on, we'll go to the approval of the agenda. Is there anything that we think needs to be changed or moved tonight? Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I move we approve the agenda, tonight's agenda.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you. All right, and so Trustee Paoli will lead us in a patriotic exercise this evening.
So I wanted to acknowledge that Veterans Day was on Monday, and I went to a nice ceremony at the Veterans Hall, and it's always on the 11th at 11 a.m. on the 11th month, so that you can always remember. And our band played beautifully. I mean, brought me to tears about 3 times. But I just wanted to read an unknown author as a statement that was shared at the ceremony. What is a veteran? A veteran, whether active duty, retired, or National Guard or Reserve, is someone who, at one point in their life, wrote a blank check made payable to the United States of America for an amount of up to and including their life. So I just wanted to take the moment that if you see a veteran, thank them for their service. Transitioning to students, I'd like to welcome and introduce Miss Nella and her student from Spanish 2 to present for us.
Good evening, everyone. ¿Cómo se dice good evening en español? ¿Sabes?
Buenas tardes.
Y muy buenas tardes y muy buenas noches también. So, yo me llamo Nicole Nella.
Hola.
¿Y cómo te llamas tú?
Tú
¿Cómo te llamas tú?
me llamo Pax. Johnson.
Perfecto. Excelente. So what we did in our Spanish 2 class for a fun project and a useful project is we made a bunch of, you want to hold up yours?
Nate, is the volume okay? Or should we pull one of the mics? Okay, we're good.
We made these posters all about health to give advice, and we are following our ACT Full World Language Standards. And I plan to put these up, I think, in the 200 building because they're just too good to not share. So that will be their semi-permanent home for a minute. Anyway, so for our ACTFL standards, we looked at Communication 1.1 in Spanish to talk about food groups and healthy diet and healthy lifestyle choices. And as a presentational standard for ACTFL, the students presented ideas and gave advice in Spanish about healthy lifestyle choices. And that's standard 1.3 for ACTFL. So Box is going to read what he and his group, the advice that they gave. Estos son buenos consejos para mantener la salud. Venga.
Galletas tienen mucho azúcar y no debe comerlas cada día.
So do you want to do the translation or do you want me to do the translation? So cookies are bad for your health because they are high in sugar.
Debe comer frutas y verduras porque tienen muchas vitaminas y minerales.
You should eat fruits and vegetables because they contain many vitamins and minerals.
Debe comer pollo, patatas de puré y verduras en la cena.
So you should eat chicken and mashed potatoes and vegetables for dinner. And then do you want to read what's in the little clouds? These are just reminders for healthy lifestyles.
Practicar deportes,
Practice sports,
comer verduras,
eat veggies,
nadar,
swim,
caminar,
walk,
correr,
run,
beber agua,
drink water,
levantar pesas,
lift weights,
comer proteínas,
proteínas. Excelente. So eat proteins,
dormir,
sleep,
no comer mucho grasas.
and don't eat a lot of fat. So when we had our district meeting also for the lady with the hair who tells us to get up at 5 a.m. and do exercise.
Julie Adams.
Thank
Lady
you.
with the hair.
Like, you don't have her name right now. So this also connects to that, and we talk about that in class just to reinforce as a district and as a school and for students and teachers that everyone needs to do this. So, una vez más, choca la mano. Let's say thank you. Gracias.
Thank you so much.
Paxis has a busy week. He was in Anderson Valley last night with his FFA group. So thank you for giving.
Congratulations, by
evenings.
the way.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Nella.
Thank you so much for having us.
Okay, so we're moving on to acknowledgements, and that's Becky.
So thank you, Mendo Mill. They did the Bucket Challenge fundraiser, which provided a donation of $1,740 to ASB General Athletics Fund. The Mendocino Garden Club donated $100 to be used at the Redwood Garden. And the Mendocino Coast Children's Fund donated $5,000 in harvest market checks to be used throughout Fort Bragg Unified for families who suffered loss of food or earnings during the PSPS event. And so what we had done, just so you know, we had 125 $40 gift certificates. We put 25 at each site. And we even gave 25 to Alt-Ed because they have a higher percentage of needy folks. So everybody, every principal received 25 gift cards, and those, I think, were gone within half an hour. I mean, they were out. So the counselors passed them out and knew who really needed them. So thank you to the Children's Fund and Annie Liner. She's been truly instrumental in providing help and need to our families. So
Thank you very much. Okay, communication to the board. The only thing I think I got was last night we got an email from Megan Tenzie regarding the trip that they took to Anderson Valley last night. They did very well, very big group. I think she's had 5 out of 6 teams placed in the top 5. So that was great. And it was a public speaking event, opening, closing ceremonies. So, great job. Anybody else?
I think we both received a letter from a teacher at middle school thanking for the inspirational
we did.
decal.
I don't know if that's really my board role, so that's why
Came to our board.
it did. So Diana and I put, and Shanoa Sepola and Nancy Bennett, during the dance, we snuck into the middle school and put in a large decal on their wall. So we received a thank you note from,
Across from the office.
yeah.
So if, yeah, you haven't seen it.
All right. So do we have any public participation on agenda items this evening? Again, you can speak now or you can speak when the item comes up on the agenda. No papers, Anna? No. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to reports. So we have our brief board reports about things that we've been doing in the schools. So is there anybody that would like to start?
Neither do I. Brief enough?
Well, Jerry was this morning. We're
Well,
hoping
that's
more and more
true.
people will
That's
come.
true.
Jerry was with Becky and I this morning for an hour at our open forum for the board chat. This month, we did not have anybody, so we enjoyed coffee and
And we chatted. It was
we
quite
chatted.
delightful.
We did. We just didn't have any parents or staff visit us today, but that's okay. We're going to keep opening the door, and hopefully, eventually, we get some people. And then I guess so we'll just tag on to me. So Diana and I, it's probably on her list too, had a wonderful walkthrough with Mrs. Vieira. 7 minutes in each classroom. We saw a lot of great stuff. There's a lot of really engaged students, and lots of good stuff happening at the middle school. Mary Macklin and I met regarding the safety training that I went to 2 summers ago. And I have been at 4 sites installing these decals, and I'm trying not to make a big production about it until the last one goes in, because we have 1 more to go. It's close. Yeah, I just don't want, I'm trying to kind of keep it on the DL until all 5 of them are in. And then I have my report from Dana Gray that I finally got, because I keep getting hold of him too late. So this week is parent conferences at Dana Gray. It's reminders that parents are all early release days this week, and that if you would like to meet with teachers and their students' progress in the school anytime this week, please contact the office and we'll direct them to schedule those appointments. And we would want to encourage parents to stay in regular contact with their child's teacher as well as these conferences. The Parents Club meeting will be Tuesday the 19th at 5:30, and we're inviting Dana Gray families and parents to participate in this very active parent group. And this next meeting will be on PBIS, so it's be definitely one that parents that are interested in that program would want to come see. Thanksgiving break is the 25th through the 29th. And then the readathon's coming to Dana Gray from December 6th through December 17th. And then the site council meeting for Dana Gray will be December 12th at 3:30 in the conference room. And they need new parents for members, so please see Mr. Kale if you're interested. Okay, now I'm done.
Should I go next? Okay. Okay, well, I'll start with Redwood Elementary, which I forgot to contact Lundy till right outside the door here. But they too are having parent-teacher conferences, and Lundy is having a teacher appreciation luncheon, whatever. Teacher appreciation goodies for her teachers because of all the long time hours they're putting in on that. So that is great. I was gone last meeting, and so I also went to the middle school before last meeting and was lucky enough to tag in on Kelly Smith and go around with her, and that was amazing. I saw Mrs. Perryman's class and many others, and there's some really great stuff going on at the middle school. I was really impressed. And I also went to Redwood and saw all of their classes and was impressed too. Everybody has all their routines down, and it's pretty amazing to watch those littles. I mean, teacher does their little thing and they all, it's pretty cool. Why also Becky and I and Kathy are on the Friends of Mendocino College Coast Campus, and they just had a fundraiser that I just wanted to say because it includes things for our campus, and lots of people here were there at that fundraiser. Thank you, the Bites and Brews. And we raised over $11,000 that night.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of that money, most of that money is going to the Adopt a Fifth Grader scholarships. So, gives me goosies. So, and lastly, also, Lundy is continuing to do the coffee with the principal on Fridays once a month, and I feel like they were really well attended, and people really, really appreciate that. So I hope we see more parents out there because it's been great. So, thank you.
And their parents club, I think, is next Thursday. I just happened to be there a little while ago, seeing a teacher.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that's next Thursday.
Nice. So I attended the high school booster dinner, and I think you did as well. And then at middle school, I was, as Kathy stated, we were able to go through many classrooms and use the Kelly Smith observation tool. So that gave us some background on key points and engagement, and it really I can look back at my educational career at that school and at other sites, and it's really inviting for every learning opportunity. It's amazing that the work is phenomenal and the kids are engaged. So it was really fun to be able to see it firsthand. The escape bus was at middle school today. They were rescheduled for when the power was out, so that was very engaging and amazing, and a treat from the county was why they were here. I attended the middle school volleyball rally versus the staff. I don't know when the next or the final game will be rescheduled, but there is a tie. The middle school parents club meeting was on Tuesday or Wednesday, and Mr. Becker was there to talk about the new lunchtime clubs, which is also a great idea, and I thank all the staff that are being available to have another option for kids if they don't have anything they want to do outside. They have these other options, so it's pretty exciting. Upcoming Ms. Parent Conference next Wednesday in the middle school gym, 4 to 7, and you don't need an appointment, just get in line. And then a few shout outs. The Alt Ed had online art on Facebook someone posted, which was really lovely. And they also went on an amazing San Francisco trip to Hamilton. And that I wish, if you need another adult, but amazing. So thank you for sharing that so we knew that field trip happened. High school sports, volleyball made playoffs, and soccer went to semifinals, and that was the second year, so that was very exciting. I was able to watch some of the streamed games, and once again, as of last year, I believe Fortuna knocked them out. So 7-0, but what a run. So congratulations. High school construction class painted flagpoles for the city of Fort Bragg in time for Veterans Day. So my son's in there, that's why I knew about that. So they were able to convert, I think they were closet rods, into flagpoles and put on a kind of a decal on top to help with the flags on Veterans Day. And the choir sang at Congressman Huffman's open forum at Dana Gray last Saturday. And that's also online if you wanted to take a peek. They did a great job. And of course, the high school band did an exceptional job at the Veterans ceremony on Monday. And I've said this before, but EdSource has weekly podcasts, folks, and they're pretty engaging. They're only 20 minutes. You can listen to it while you're cooking dinner. And I chimed in. Maria Shriver has a brother, Tim, and he's in education, and he spoke on social emotional learning. So that was, and he actually I was hoping someone in our district was able to go to Sacramento or get in onto his discussion there. It was this last month. Also, the other two topics that were that I chose to listen to were narrowing achievement gap for at-risk students and tackling lagging math scores across California. We're all there, and everyone's scratching their head. I believe that covers it. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? All right. So we'll move on. We've got some exciting things tonight with our superintendent's report.
It is. It's very exciting. And let's talk about the power outage first. So 8.2.1 is the power outage report. We sent home a letter to all of our families in both Spanish and English. Looks like this. Not that the 3 viewers at home can see that, but we did send home a letter. And the letters are posted on our website. They're posted on our Facebook page. It basically talks about, in the event of a power outage, what our protocol is going to be. There have been lots of questions on why the 6:30 time. Why don't we choose the night before? We try and make that call on whether or not we close school or not at the very, very last minute. And the reason for that is we recognize that as a school district, we are home to 1,800 students. 80% of our population is socioeconomically disadvantaged. Some of our families rely very heavily on school food and our school lunch program and breakfast program to help feed their kids. And so we make that decision at the very last minute. Why 6:30, you ask? Because that is the time that we deploy the buses. Once the buses are deployed, it's difficult, and kids are coming in, we don't say, okay, now we're going to send you back home. So that's why 6:30 is the golden hour. Why also 6:30? Because Joe Rogalski does his morning 6:30 broadcast. So during the PSPS event, like on Tuesday, we sent out a message at 4:30 in the afternoon to say that we were closing school on Wednesday because we were able to verify that we would not have power on Wednesday. And so once we knew that we weren't going to have power on Wednesday, we could make that call the night before. So that's why that happened. What we discovered in this event was that there is a default setting in Aries, which is if you don't change it on purpose, the default setting is that you will not get any Aries calls between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. So at 6:21, when I was hitting send, and it wasn't sending, and then I'm texting the administrators, anybody get the message? Anybody get the message? Everyone's saying, no, Becky, we didn't get it. Anna comes in and she says, I see that you sent it. We're waiting. Because the default setting is that most families don't have it so that you can receive a message before 7 a.m. What we learned was that I have a magic emergency button. Well, I didn't hit the emergency button because in truth, it's not an emergency. We knew the power was out. So I didn't hit the emergency button. If I had hit the emergency button, the message would have gone out and it would have overridden the silent time. Okay, so good news for us. At 6:20 a.m., when I want to send out a message and I want everyone to get it, I'll hit emergency. It'll go out to everybody. I apologize to families who have kiddos who have 0 period PE. Some of them had come. Good job. Sorry. And then we had some employees who were coming in, but the good news is that they were able to go home and still get paid for the day. So we have this protocol. It's posted on our website. It's posted on our Facebook pages. For families or people who live in remote areas and you don't have cell service, I would encourage you to get some type of battery-operated radio. Be a part of a phone tree so that we can get a hold of you and call you and let you know what's going on. I know that all the administrators had their phone trees in operation on Tuesday and Wednesday. So this is our opportunity to kind of tell people if something was amiss in that, let's do our best to fix it, because I'm going to stick my neck out there and say there's going to be a next time. Yeah. So that's the power outage event. Under ACSA, the Association of California School Administrators, the principals, assistant principals, and myself were able to attend the Northern California event. It was the Leadership Summit.
You know what, Becky, I'm sorry, there was one thing, families were asking about making up those days. That was one thing I wanted you to talk about.
So we have applied for a waiver so that we don't have to make up those days. We will know about the waiver in, March? Okay, so sometime after January, we assume that we're going to hear if we have to make it up or not. I'm not worried about it, and no one should be worried about it right now. And the reason is the governor declared a state of emergency. That's usually a slam dunk that's going to carry the waiver. When we close school and when we apply for a waiver, we have to answer certain questions. Question 1, do you have power? Well, that was easy, no. Question 2, is your water dependent on that power? Yes, so, because we have lots of potties that are electronically flushed, right? The next question is, do you have heat? Do you have food to feed kids? Do you have, if you have transportation, can you get them in and out? So on Thursday, the reason we closed school was because the water line that had broken on Azalea, for those of you who live in town, the in and out of power in Fort Bragg, it was on, it was off, it was on, it was off. I don't know, those of you who experienced it, it was quite fun, I hear. I just had no power. So the on-off, the backflow valve, I believe at Dana Gray, stuck in one position, which sent for lots of waterworks. Mm-hmm. So we literally had no water and no way to flush potties at Dana Gray, and they got it working again about 10:30. So if we don't have water and we can't estimate when the water issue will be fixed, we can't bring kids into school. We can't have 400 kids into school and not have the ability to flush the potty. So because of that event with the water, on Thursday, we were able to apply for a waiver again because we had no water. Okay, that answered one of those 4 big questions. So we are very optimistic that the waiver will be approved, which means we will not have to make up those days. And what we are going to have to do, though, is we are going to have to look at snow days or power days for us in the event that the governor doesn't declare a state of emergency and that we do have to make up those days. So that's something that we're going to have to look at moving into the future.
And then is there any thing like a waiver for the food and things that we lost, or do we have any idea how much that?
So we lost about $10,000 worth of food. And that was from the culinary class at the middle school, the culinary class at the high school. Ag lost some food in their refrigerators. All of the SH classrooms that had refrigerators lost food. Anything in the front offices in the little tiny fridges. And then the fridges at all of our sites, the refrigerators at all of our sites, lost all the refrigerated food. So about $10,000. Our insurance isn't covered that, so we're going to smile and wave.
So the 4 days we missed that we don't have to make up, does that affect the budget?
No.
Income, nothing?
The way it would affect the budget is if the state said, we're not paying you for those days unless you make them up, then that would affect the budget. If we apply for the waiver and the state says, no, we will grant your waiver, then we get the same amount of money as if we were in school.
Because basically they allow you to have 876 days, school year, 780. So the 88 days. So.
You need to move your mic closer to you. Those 3 viewers need to hear those words, Wendy. It's very exciting. We have more people in the audience than we have viewers. Thank you all for being here. It's good stuff. I'm serious. I'm super excited. Okay, moving forward. Is that?
Yes, thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. The principals, assistant principals, and myself, we were able to attend the Association of California School Administrators Leadership Summit in San Francisco. Every odd year, it's on the north part of the state. Every even year, it's in the southern part of the state. So we do our best to try and attend on those odd years because it is so close to home. It was in San Francisco. It is a wonderful time for us as a team to be able to hit some sessions that are specifically geared towards being a principal, a superintendent, an assistant principal. It's very targeted for school administrators. We get lots of great information. So we were able to attend that. We left on Wednesday after school. We had substitutes at the sites for Thursday and Friday, and then came home on Saturday. LCAP goals, I should say. Any questions on that? Our LCAP goals. I have this in here because I wanted to start the conversation on looking at our 3 goals. This next cycle of LCAP is a whole new template, and it's a whole new 3-year plan. So when we start moving through this process, we are going to be looking at our goals specifically. Our current goals are increasing college and career readiness, closing the achievement gap, improving school culture. Improving college and career readiness, it's something we have to continue on. We have now, I looked at the preview on the dashboard today, and it looks like we took another decline in that area. So it's something that we are going to have to actively address. I was a little shocked that we had a 2-year decline in increasing college and career readiness. Those numbers have not been confirmed. I've asked the high school counseling office, and I've asked Sarah Bushnell to look at those numbers. When the dashboard is released on December 9th, we'll see if those numbers still hold true. We're doing some checking, but that has me a bit alarmed. It's something that we need to address. So I believe that goal needs to stay. These are some of the discussions that we would have in the board chat if you are interested in coming. It is invigorating stuff. So that goal we really need to continue to pursue. The second goal is closing the achievement gap. What we had talked about as administrators was really the wording of that goal. The intent of the goal is to increase student academic performance. That's the intent of the goal. We don't want the wording of the goal to overshadow the intent. So we're looking at using that goal and specifically saying increasing student academic performance. So that what we can look at is that every student, regardless of where they come to us at each grade, we're looking at some level of improvement for every single kiddo. If you are the valedictorian in the class, you still need to have some academic growth that year. If you are a kiddo who struggles because of a myriad of issues, you still need to have academic growth that year. So we're looking at that goal and how we can reframe it so that we can really make sure that we're targeting every student. So that's the one goal that when we start having our board workshops on LCAP, when we have our board chats and we're talking about what we want to do with LCAP, That's one of the goals that I think we need to be a little bit more targeted with. When we meet next Thursday at our special board meeting to talk about our benchmarks, you'll understand why that goal needs to be a little bit more targeted. I'll be presenting you our CAS scores and some of the trends that have happened over the years in Fort Bragg Unified, and really a call to action that we need to have really in what we're doing in our mathematics education. So it's something we're going to talk about. I'm going to be doing the CASP Roadshow to all the sites to give you a preview of what's going on in the district, but the board will receive that next Thursday. And then the final goal, improving school culture. We are making some huge headway with that, and because I feel like we're really making some good progress. I know that the sites are starting to work with Dale Myers again to resurrect a strong, very robust PBIS program. That goal is still moving forward. So it's not like we want to derail any of these. We want to look at what we're doing. Are the targets still the targets? And how are we capturing the essence of the intent so that we can use those dollars to address our goals? So that's all I wanted to tell you about LCAP. It'll be a continuing conversation. Nice segue into this is our teacher coaches that we've hired for this year. We have 2 teacher coaches in our district. We have Angie Daniels, who is the instructional coach for Redwood Elementary, and then we have Sarah McGee here, who is the instructional coach for Dana Gray Elementary. And I'm not just saying this because Sarah's sitting in the audience. Probably one of the most impactful things that we have done this year is implementing our instructional coaches to work with teachers on what they are doing in their classroom. And it's not just, I'm going to help you learn to teach. It's incredibly targeted. So I'm not sure if Sarah, did you want to talk? Okay. Okay. So then Lundy's going to come up and tell you a little bit about it right now.
So I made color copies of the beautiful pamphlet because it just adds so much more. As Becky introduced, I'm Lundy Erickson, sorry. As Becky introduced, we're super excited to have our coaches this year. They're doing a phenomenal job. If you didn't grab a pamphlet, I think there are a couple more over on the table, but I was just gonna walk through this briefly and give you the highlights. So in the front inside cover, it gives you an idea of how Angie and Sarah are using their time. So they're doing one-on-one coaching, they're doing whole group professional development. Sometimes that whole group is based at the site, and sometimes it's with Redwood and Dana Gray together. They're coordinating curriculum, making sure that we have the supplies that we need, both at the site level and within the classroom level. And then they're helping facilitate our PLC meetings, making sure that teachers have what they need for the meetings, that we're able to stay on track, et cetera. And then their purpose is on the inside front cover there. When you open it up here, what I'd really like to focus on is what the cycles are that they're working on with teacher groups. So at each site, they've split the teachers into 2 cohorts so that they're not working with everybody at once. They're good, but there are limits to what they can achieve. And then, so they're going through these 5 coaching cycles throughout the year. So the first cycle, which has been wrapped up, is getting those new staff members ready. Do they understand the benchmark advanced curriculum, the everyday math curriculum? Do they understand what guided reading looks like, sounds like, feels like? Giving them the basics so that they can begin the year and give everybody a good start. Cycle 2 is all about small group instruction, and they allowed the teachers a lot of choice within this. One of the benefits of having a coach is they get to know you and what your strengths are and what your areas of need are. So they're able to really individualize the instruction that they're giving that teacher. Teachers were allowed, given some choice. Do you want to focus on guided reading? Some yes, some no. ELD, making sure that that designated ELD time is being used really strategically and that it's being done very consistently. Data collection is something that they've also been offering to focus on, and then just routines within the classroom. all those procedures, all those routines. How do you have your classroom set up so that it's going to maximize your instructional time? Cycle 3 is going to be on guided reading for everybody. Our small group instruction is hugely powerful, so everybody gets this round. Cycle 4 is going to be student engagement strategies, making sure that we've hooked those kids in so that we can provide the important learning opportunities that we've got set up. And then cycle 5 is on creating lesson objectives, making sure that it's very clear what's our goal, how are we going to get there, how are we going to know if we met those goals, what are we going to do if we haven't met them. And then on the back, these are some of the things I mentioned that they had been doing some whole group professional development, and these are some of the topics that they've already covered with us. So before the school year started, we worked on standards mapping and pacing guides. That's something that had been lacking at Redwood for a number of years, and it's really exciting to have begun the year with that in place. They've worked with the teachers on ELA and math standards-based district benchmark assessments, which we're going to be talking more about at our next board meeting, presenting some of the results. Designated ELD, again, providing teachers with the knowledge and information that they need to have that strategic instruction for our English learners. Another session on oral reading records, which is part of the way that we capture data on reading achievement and making sure that we've got a very good assessment of our students' reading level so that within guided reading, we can then provide that strategic instruction. And ongoing data analysis at our sites. And that's going to be not just with the academic data, but also looking at behavior data as well, making sure, like we were talking about, those systems in classrooms, making sure that that's really effective. So those are some of the amazing things that Sarah and Angie have been working on. It's been such a blessing to watch them rise to this challenge and to reap the benefits of what they're doing. So hats off to both of them. And thank you for supporting that.
Thank you, Lundy. And again, I just want to reiterate what Principal Erickson so eloquently reported. Sarah, you and Angie are doing a fabulous job. It's making a huge impact in our classrooms and on our student learning, so thank you for that. Thank you for the time and energy and all the extras that you're putting in, because it really is making a huge difference. So thank you. Questions on that from the board?
Looks great.
Well, here's the fun stuff, middle school web.
Oh, it has to be that.
Web is where everyone belongs.
Hi, I'm Tracy Perryman. I am middle school teacher, science, and part coordinator of Where Everybody Belongs Web. My sidekick, I guess, I don't know, is Jason Godick. He went to the training last year, and so did Mark Cimolino. Jason and I are running the program pretty much this year. I started this with the blessing of everyone, with Laura and Kim Myrtle. And we've been doing it for 3 years now. So it's called Web, Where Everybody Belongs. Basically, we transition 6th graders. We're trying to build leadership skills with the 8th graders and change our school climate. It's basically what we want to do. So 6th graders, with their transition, we do an orientation at the beginning of the school year, where all the 6th graders come, they go to the gym, they do an assembly, fun things with us, and then the 8th grade web leaders take them to the classrooms and do more small group activities where every single activity is connected to something that is school related, and the biggest thing I think that they do is make their connections with their 8th grader. We have web shirts, and they are bright yellow this year. It's the best color because every time I tell a kid, I'm like, you need your web shirt on, and the 6th graders know who they are and can find them pretty easily. After that, we don't have homeroom right away, so there was a lull, and then we have homeroom when the early release starts. And so on Tuesdays during homeroom, all the web leaders come together, and we have been going through different activities with them, building their leadership skills, and then we've sent them into Tuesday homeroom to the 6th grade homerooms. And we'll continue doing that, and then continuing, this year we haven't done any fun school activities after school yet, but at the beginning of last year we did. So we'll probably do something around the end of this semester. So the other thing that Web does is build leadership skills for our 8th graders. They take 2 days out of their summer and come and do a training with Jason and I and Mark actually. And they're just learning all those leadership skills, speaking, how to problem solve when a little 6th grader says, I don't want to do this. I equated it to teaching. They're basically teaching the 6th graders some awesome skills. That's our group right there this year. They're pretty awesome kids. Really cool. And it's across the board. All different types of kids become leaders. It's not just the leadership kids. It's also I like the word nerd. So the nerd kid who wants to build and go do engineering and stuff. So they're all the different types of kids are in there. And then the last thing I have is school climate. Like we want to change. I started teaching back at the middle school 3 years ago, and that's when this started. And one of the things, my kids went there and everything, and I always thought it was a great school, but there were little things missing, and I felt like this was a really cool program to change the climate of the school, to get the kids, one, coming to school, two, taking charge of the school. Like, this is a place, I like this place, I want to keep this place clean, or I want to be here and be with my friends and things like that. So I just put on this slide just the immediate outcomes. We can see the increase in connection to the school. I like the idea of the 6th graders' decreased level of isolation. Like, 6th graders are talking to their 8th grade peers, which is nice. And then just seeing the connection, even web leaders to web leaders, like they're not a normal friend group usually. There's usually outliers, and so they're connecting that way. Long-term goals, hopefully this is increasing attendance for the middle school and improving their decision-making skills. Middle schoolers, it's kind of, their brains still going, it's still improving, so, and growing. So, and then ownership, more increased ownership with the school. And then the last slide is just more pictures. This was a group that went into 6th grade classroom last week, and those are the 6th graders they were working with. Just playing a game, learning about cooperation. So, that's it.
Good job, Mrs. Perryman. Thank you. Next up, we have, any questions from the board? Sorry.
Thanks for doing this.
It is a lot of extra time, so
It
thank
is.
you very much for.
Good job. We are excited because Web and Link are from the same project, from the Boomerang Project. And I don't know if people know the story of how we got this. Years ago, Kathy Babcock was the counselor. And I said, hey, Kathy, I want you to put a mentorship program together. And after a year of it, she came to me and she said, Becky, you need to send me to the Boomerang Project. I said, Kathy, I don't want to spend the money. She said, Becky, you need to send us to the Boomerang Project. And they started that first group. And then I think it was Laura Vieira who came in and said, we really need to have Web. Was it you?
Sure.
Okay. So, and Web is part of the Boomerang Project. So next up we have Mrs. Alexander and the Link leaders from Fort Bragg High School.
I'm Miss Alexander. I'm the assistant principal at the high school, but tonight I am here with my, come over here, Adrian. with a few of our Link leaders who are very excited to share their experiences. Link has been on the high school campus. This is our 7th year, and we're lucky to have kids who are willing to give summertime. The high school kids give 3 days of summer to learn how to be leaders, and like Mrs. Perryman said, learn how to be teachers. And I think some of the experiences they're going to share with you tonight, they have a different respect for what teachers do in the classroom. It's an amazing transition program that welcome freshmen, but I don't want to do any more talking because I brought them here to do it. So come on in. Jackie.
Let's do it. I'm just gonna, okay. Hi, good afternoon. I'm Jackie. I'm a senior at the Fort Bragg High School, and joining Link Crew was exciting and also very nerve-wracking in a way, because it was fun, like doing all the training during the summer and then actually getting like to the orientation and inviting them and transitioning them from middle school to the high school, which was very, very, very exciting. But it wasn't always so easy getting to participate. It's like some challenges were like being patient and being responsible, but also being fun at the same time. That's very hard because middle schoolers are, you know. Some fun activities that we do is the trunk or treat, which is when we get our like cars and we decorate them and then we get them and they go trick or treating. Another one is what? Oh yeah, pancakes. Yes. We invite them to culinary and they get their pancakes, they get their whipped cream and their strawberries, and if we have seconds, they'll get seconds. And oh yeah, karaoke night. Yeah, we're just about to get that done. Hopefully they come, because sometimes they're kind of hard to convince.
And Jackie, I just want to clarify, when you say they, you mean the freshmen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just making
Sorry.
sure folks know. No, you're doing a great job.
And another one is that we're gonna do this month is the cookies and cram. So we're gonna invite them, like talk to them. Another one we're hopefully gonna do is when we're gonna get them to come to the cafeteria and help them like study and like help them out. And then every Friday we go and see them in their advisory class and just have a chat, like play games with them. And we go to the gym and we play like different kinds of games, like a tag game, or we just have just an amazing time. Dodgeball we did last year, volleyball, it was kind of chaotic, but we managed to pull it off.
So you've been a Link leader for 2 years?
Yeah,
Because
I
you just
have.
said last year?
It
Awesome.
was very exciting. It's kind of sad that it's ending, but I'm be their like Link leader forever. It doesn't matter. Another thing is a Link Crew conference. So it's all the Link leaders that can go and turn in their permission slips. This year we went to Ukiah, and it was just so much fun. I'm just not sure if it was because it was my last year, so I kind of enjoyed it a little more than last year. But it was amazing. We just got to meet new people, got to interact with them, gave some of our ideas to them. They shared some of their ideas to us, and it was just amazing getting to know different people from different schools. So, yeah. We're good?
Okay, so I'm Destiny Segura, and I'm also part of Link Crew, obviously. These are our cute shirts. So my experience in Link Crew has been pretty cool. Whenever my Link Crew leaders came in my freshman year, I'd be like, wow, seniors, so cool. Like, I want to hang out with them. I mean, they never hung out with me, so. But my junior year, I wasn't in Link Crew, and just seeing how, like, my grade was so connected on, like, a different base on helping the freshmen, I just wanted to join my senior year, you know? Just being able to have that last hurrah with my seniors and the juniors, but yeah. Being connected and helping the freshmen has been very fun. At least my kids are very funny. Yeah. But yeah, that's my experience.
Hello, I'm Adrian. I got a little bit more. And I've been in Link Crew for 2 years, and I joined because I had really good Link Crew leaders, except I had a lot, so not all of them would show up every week. So that I kind of noticed that. So then when it came to my junior year, I realized that I could join and I could be there for these incoming freshmen and help them out and be there every week and be there for them and help them. So that was really scary for me because I'm not really the type of person to go out and be the leader and do that type of thing. So I was really nervous. But I'm really glad I joined because it's really fun and you connect with other people in your grade and other juniors that you wouldn't really be friends with. But over the 3 days of training and throughout the whole year, you connect with them and you connect with the freshmen, and not just the ones in your class, but when we do like the big class activities in the gym, you connect with everyone when we all interact with each other and we all play games. And yeah, I really like it because it's fun. Yeah.
Just one more thing. I think what I like most about what's happening in this situation is that they were all really nervous and they kind of conquered things that they didn't think they were going to be able to do. And I think that's one of the things that speaks to Link Crew is that it's a real leadership situation and they're putting themselves out there in situations they wouldn't normally do. And if there's one thing I can say is they've all learned how to be silly. Because I think teenagers forget that they take themselves a little bit too seriously, and once they start letting their guard down and being silly in front of their freshmen start being maybe a little bit more silly every week.
They get more comfortable.
Yes, yes. And because of the success of Link and then also Web, 2 years ago, Katrina Titchener and I decided to make up a boomerang project at Dana Gray, and they have something called the Pod Squad. The Pod Squad are fourth graders who want to be leaders in their fifth grade year, and they help the third graders transition to Dana Gray, and that's been pretty successful as well. So it's pretty wonderful.
Can you tell them about the scavenger hunt?
Sure, go ahead. I forgot to bring the pictures. I apologize for that.
You're cool. So, sorry. One more thing we do is we do a scavenger hunt. So us juniors and seniors go to our advisory class and we get them all together. We split them in groups, and the whole entire school is doing this. So we get them all together and we have to find I'm where the books are. Where am I? And it's obviously the library. So we all run and we have to put them in what was it? We got a collage. Thank you. And we post it on Instagram. Whoever posted it first, wins, and which is really awesome. So we're always competitive in a way, and it's we're gonna win. No, we're gonna win. So, yeah. That's it. Is there any questions you guys want to ask us? Or? All right.
Good job. Thank you.
It warms my heart.
It's good stuff. Okay, and last but certainly not least, Alt Ed Connie Belli, Principal Belli, is going to talk to us about the boat project. Thank you, Link leaders.
Thank you very much. Oh God, I have to put it lower. We have a artist that comes to us from Flockworks, and we had this. I brought these pictures for you to see because this is the boat before it was that boat. So I don't know if you guys want to look at it. We had a teacher that Ariel Marshall that had our kids build a boat about 3 or 4 years ago, I think it was, maybe longer, and she got a kit. And they all, spent a lot of time building this boat. And they put it in the water, and I think Gary was there, and it floated, amazingly enough, sort of, floated. Anyway, it sat in the front of the school for a long time, and it was ugly. It was just ugly, and it drove me nuts. And so this year, the artist Sally Rodriguez came to us, and I said, God, please paint the boat. Just do something with the boat. And so she got a small group of kids, and this is one of them, and they're decorating the boat. So they primered it, and then they've all put their stamp on it. And I don't know if so all of these pictures on the outside of the boat and the inside of the boat are drawn by our students. And Sally's in the back with the hat on. And so they've done this amazing job, and they took it on. They spend a lot of time doing it. It's a great outlet for them. And we get to have it displayed for the whole month of December at the Noyo Center for Science, which is also where Flockworks has their makerspace on Main Street. And so on first Friday in December, I'll be there, and I'm hoping a couple of the artists will come with me, but that's always a question mark with our kids. But then it's going to be displayed. And they've put in, so the inside of the boat is also painted, and they're finishing up with that. But it's absolutely amazing when you see it, and you see how much work they put into it. And it's got them to do other kinds of art, and really feeling that artistic presence and the art inside them. And some of their artwork will also be displayed at the center that Sally's going to hang. And so it's very, very exciting, especially when you see that they built the boat, and now they're finishing off the boat. And we haven't decided what we're going to do with it after. I think we might make it a totem in the middle of our of our quad, and then they're going to move on to some other projects. So this is my kids, and I hope you come and see it because it's amazing. If anybody knows our kids and the art and the talent that they put into it, and a lot of work. So that's our art project. Plus they all went to Hamilton.
Yeah.
Not all of them. About 11 kids went to Hamilton.
That's great.
And
So-
had a great time, and had never been.
I just really want to commend what Alted is doing. You've always done a great job. This year, there have been more exciting things in the first 12 weeks of school. When I walked in the first day and Ms. McPhail announced that she wrote a little mini grant to get them tickets to Hamilton, all of a sudden, every adult in the world's like, I'll chaperone.
Yeah.
So that was exciting and at the reduced price. And just the camaraderie on the staff is pretty amazing. They have a new aide that they've welcomed who's like baking biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
So it's like, what did we do wrong?
She makes
So-
a lot of good stuff.
A lot of good stuff. The elective offerings that you're doing now are pretty spectacular. The staff is working together, leaning on each other's strengths, moving kids around so that they have opportunities to be with other adults, and also trying to hone in on kids' strengths. Carla Leach, their full-time counselor, is really working on groups, really trying to hone in on the emotional stability piece. It is a good feel at Alted.
Thank you.
And we all have our moments when it's hard.
When it's
Gary's
yeah.
laughing at me.
I know.
But
I
I have to
know.
tell you very honestly, it is a good feel. The kids know that their teachers love them. The teachers love their kids. The staff support each other. There are days when there's some major frustration, and Connie will call me, and we will talk each other off the cliff.
Yes, we will.
But I have to just take my hat off to what you're doing, Connie and Gary and Eric, Emily, Becca, and
Amanda
is the new one.
yeah.
And then, of course, Michaela and Christina,
Yeah.
who are in the front office, kind of sometimes just steering the ship.
They are.
So for a small and mighty crew, they're doing some amazing work. And the people that Connie's been able to bring in through Flockworks and through other community groups has been amazing. It's a really good feel. They're
Thank
doing
you.
great stuff. So
We think so.
congratulations.
And the boat thing is just so amazing. That's why I had to bring you the other pictures. Because I'm the one that complained for like 3 or 4 years. Probably Gary's heard me ever go, oh my God, that boat gets so ugly. So it's my personal thing. Any
Are there-
questions? Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, so speaking of Flockworks,
Segway.
yep, Joanna Wigington is here to talk to us about Dana Gray.
It's a great segue because we're going to
share our leftover paint from Dana Gray so that they can paint a compass rose over by that boat.
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, this might be within my.
If you get stuck, I can take over.
Good evening, I'm Joanna Wigington, long retired teacher who just can't keep my fingers out of the pie of teaching. You know, once you're married to the muse, that's it. So Flockworks, I joined Flockworks after I retired because it was such an inclusive energy, and the commitment to foster community art, specifically with children in mind, was so clear. And the inclusiveness, the attitude that everybody is an artist, just pulled me right in the door. So, oh, this came out smaller. I've never seen my little computer so big. Our current plans, we're funding art resource person Norma again this year. So I'm excited to be here because without that funding, I would not be here and Norma would not be at Dana Gray every day. We're going to continue serving the 400 students there every week. They come in for art. We also, I think this is a slide later, we're supporting the district-wide goals, those LCAP goals. And we also support all the teachers there, and the Kudos program is a little sign up by the door. And any teacher can write on that list anything they want for their classroom that has to do with art, and we'll buy it and deliver it.
Wow.
Usually within a couple of days. Occasionally we have to order something that takes a little longer. Teachers never take advantage of what they're offered. They're still so careful about not asking for too much that I don't think maybe they believe me, but there are 2 or 3 that do. They know to sign up with what they want. We have done outdoor projects this year, which you'll see some pictures of. At the moment, we have about another week to submit a big grant to the California Arts Council. We're asking them for $20,000. We're looking for matching funds. We're working on that. And this is to have a program go on next year. It's hard to sustain programs with personnel, grant, by donor, but we want to go at least another year. So we're looking at even maybe other ways to put more art in the classroom and support teachers more rather than pull up. It's something that's sustainable even after we may not be able to keep going. And we've got Norma with 2 years going under her belt, who's going to be a force of nature, no matter whether there's funding or not. She's really skilled. So our future plans are to expand the number of stakeholders. We're always getting on our little soapboxes in the community. We've been to the Rotary, Seroptimus have all given money for materials. And to expand our offerings, hopefully, next year to Redwood School, but that's in progress, and we'll talk more about that. At the end of the year, we had the Affordable Housing Project, not to be confused with recycling. And it filled the hallway at Dana Gray. It was really exciting, the language about it, the idea that artists make statements about the world, and this is not a controversial one. We all know we've got to have more affordable housing. And the excitement about building, and one of our processes of building is that we support kids learning to have skills. And many kids aren't skilled with even basic glue and scissor work. So built into this was the first session was just to experiment. Use all the tape you want, all the glue within reason, and all the cardboard, because cardboard, you can get cardboard donated very easily. And most of those things weren't savable. Kids were just trying to figure out how you get something to stand up, even though there were models of maybe 10 different ways to erect. You still have to do it with your own hands to really understand how physics works. So anyway, it was a really fun thing. We got tons of comments. We saved some of it. It went to a few places to be on display. And sometimes I just hang out in the hall and watch kids go by, point and talk, and the kind of conversation that this kind of thing stimulates to me is really important, because every art project we build in some kind of vocabulary acquisition and some kind of math, science. I am not unaware of the standards. So we started this year with paper bag pals. We also like to build in projects that are extremely affordable. What, you don't have a paper bag at home? Well, now some people don't, but, and everything there is from the dollar store or leftover from last year's things. And the paper bag pals, you'll see some of them have flags. We bought flags, those little miniature toothpick flags from 13 Central and South American countries, because these paper bag pals all went to Hispanic Heritage Days at the park. So we had a big display, all 430 of them were along the fence. And so the family's going, that's mine, where's mine, where's mine? Oh, wait. Because at the end of each stick is the teacher's name, so you could kind of at least narrow yourself down to your class and then narrow yourself down to. And surprisingly, they can identify theirs very easily. Mr. Kale challenged us to use up a lot of old construction paper. And it was really fun because I recognized one of the vendors of construction paper. And they have not been packaging paper like that since the late 90s. So this paper was not new. And some of it was bleached on the side in a completely dark closet. And that is a challenge. So, and then we found the comb binder. For those of you who are old enough, you know what a comb binder is. It's so fun. For the first 200, it was fun. The last 215 were just do 50, and then you can go. Anyway, we now have a portfolio ready for every single child at Dana Gray. So at the end of the year, some of their artwork will be glued into that. And the front, we realized watching the first week when kids put their names on things that, again, more motor skills and writing skills were really not real strong. So what was going to be 1 week turned into 3 weeks of graphic design. What do artists do? And this is what graphic design is. And so instead of saying you have terrible handwriting here, we got to do something, we had all sorts of different fonts that you could emulate, from a Harry Potter font to, you know, how do you telegraph how do you make it legible? Anyway, they all have now their own label on their portfolio. And then Mr. Kale said last spring, don't you think it would be a great idea to have a map of the United States and a map of the world on the playground? I said, oh yeah, that'd be really, really fun. Well, go do it. So thank you to the parent club, or maybe, I don't know, thank you or not. They bought the stencils, which are quite expensive. We tried to save them for use at Redwood, but however, they're made from newsprint. And so once you've laid them down, and we had quite a few people come for the laying down, filling those, including Mr. Kale, several teachers, community members. It was a really fun Saturday. Unfortunately, one dad and one 8th grade daughter who actually knew what they were doing. And so we got the stencils laid down and the lines connected. Then the rest is having every student in that school come out to paint. So out of art class, they would come out with me and paint. Norma kept the class going, and 5 at a time would come out and paint. Some found that 5 minutes of painting was plenty. Like, well, this isn't that fun. And some were like, I could do this all day. So every student, we wanted a lot of buy-in. I could tell you it would have been easier to paint the whole thing in 1 day with 8 adults. However, what we saw starting to happen was all kinds of talk. There's a Hawaii. You recognize Hawaii? All kinds of, what's this? What's this? I was both mortified and gratified when one little person stood in California and he's going, I didn't know there was any more. I said, like, more? Like, you said this is California. More. Oh, wow. Wow. It's like, I said, yeah. I said, you want to really see more? Come with me. Come on over here. Oh, this is what started to happen. A few days, Norma and I went out with just piles of chalk, and they started writing the names. Because why don't you paint the names on? Nah, not paint them on. You gotta figure them out. There are all kinds of games. We've given all the teachers a little copy of several games that you can play. And so they started identifying, writing them on. It became a spelling thing. That was, it just happens. And then kids talking about, well, I know that's Montana because my cousin lives there. I know that's Florida. How do you know that's Florida? I think that's Texas. No, I know Texas. And they stand in Texas. The language, And then there are some students who are really skilled in geography. One who knows maybe 100 of the countries in the world map. And I'm going, how did you learn these? She said, well, I just love them. So now we're over at the world map. The scale is, let's see, what is it? It's 100 meters, a kilometer, a meter to a kilometer, meter to 100 kilometers, I think, on the world map. And there's somebody sitting in green Russia. Somebody's painting purple China. And I guess, and we have to give a thank you. You're thanking other donors of the community. I went into Norvell's telling them the project, thinking, oh, maybe they'll give me a real discount on the paint. They just hand it to me. I said, well, you know, for the paint, they said, we need to know what colors you want. I said, I know, yeah, colors, but the paint. Just tell us what colors you want. And I'm finally getting it. Oh, my. So probably, I think it's 10 gallons of paint. And this is high quality outdoor paint. It's in the neighborhood of probably $800 or $900 worth of paint that has come from them. So we don't take that lightly. And the kids are making a great thank you note for Norvell's. And I'm incredibly appreciative because that would have really hurt our materials budget badly. So it's just about done now. We just have to retouch the Black Sea that turned into a country. But we can do that. And so the arts, we're here just to, you know, I don't let anything rest without people knowing that the arts are really important. And all the educational research and all our brain development research suggests the importance of the arts. And when I first went into Dana Grade, I saw these goals. I like, okay, well, what's the achievement? What's the school culture? What needs to be? And just thinking, okay, well, that has to be built into what we do because it all has to be connected. If I have to build in a vocabulary component. I have to build in a math component. We have to be looking at things. Is it addressing this? Is it addressing the culture of where the kids are coming from and where we're hoping they get to go to? So there are many ways in which we step back and assess all the time. What are we doing? What can we do better? How can we deliver more art? Because as you know, time is tight for things, and of course I want children to have art every day and music every day. So we're working to see if that's possible to help and support and provide the materials and some structure and some whatever it takes to help teachers integrate it into what they're doing. Not grab time away from stuff, but actually make it an enrichment to any literature you're reading. There are a whole lot of great projects that involve math and science. So we continue to need the recognition of the essential nature of arts in an excellent education. Because for me, part of doing this is a social justice thing. You know, there are communities that are very wealthy, and they will not let their students have a week that they don't have music and art. And by golly, I don't care if you're a wealthy community or not. You deserve an excellent education. You deserve an elitist education. You deserve the whole 9 yards. Not just, well, it's good enough for them. No way. These kids need to have the best. So I want to acknowledge and thank the support from the staff and the administrators has been great. The board members, families, when we're really pressed to have volunteers for one reason or another, you know, they come out of the woodwork, and Norma knows how to round them up too. So thank you for all of that positive support. That needs to continue to grow. We're always looking for matching funds, and of course we're trying to secure ongoing funding, which is next to impossible, but hey, we like the impossible. So thank you. I just kind of wanted to update people and know that we're still here if you want, and please come by Dana Grade. Play on the map, you know, play, you know, step on a blue stake. And I started laughing. Then okay, no, you can only step on a yellow stake, yellow stakes. Okay, inside code. Anyway, please come by.
Any questions for Joanna?
Thank you, Joanna, for all your hard work. It's always an honor and a privilege to be able to share your passion with art, and it's just so infectious. So thank you. Joanna and I had a lovely sit down together 2 days ago. Yesterday? Was it yesterday? Good heavens. And one of the things that we're talking about is really trying to utilize Flockworks as a resource to be able to teach our teachers. I don't want to say teachers. We have a lot of wonderful teachers who know art like the back of their hand, and some who don't maybe have a strong relationship with art. And so we are moving forward and looking at doing some planning with Flockworks so that we can start looking at infusing the projects that she's doing and looking at with Norma to match the curricular themes. So we have a good direction, I think, for next year, and very excited about it. So there's more to come.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, FBDTA has come back to us.
Good evening. I'm Sarah McGee, representing FBDTA, and I'm going to continue the sentiment of appreciation. So on behalf of the Teachers Association, we just wanted to share with the board and the public our appreciation of the community organizations, the parents clubs, and the individuals that are supporting our students. So the teachers see volunteers in our classrooms. We receive donations for wish lists. We have loads of successful Donors Choose projects that are due in part to our local community members who donate to projects for our students. Our parents clubs are doing amazing things and providing events at the sites. We just had the Red Ribbon Week and the Harvest Festival at Redwood, and we as teachers feel the impact that they have and wanted to make sure that we shared that. Thank you, community organizations, and we really appreciate your support.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Thank you. So I'm going to pause now for anybody that would like to go home. Thank you so much for the good stuff. It's nice to have such, we know great things are happening in the district, but it's really nice to hear about them and see them. And so thank you very much for giving a few hours out of your evening.
We can get some intrinsic rewards doing it. This is just a lovely experience.
And thank you. I think it was, who did agenda setting with you? Was it Diana? Thank you, President Babcock and Vice President Paley, for encouraging us to have more student reports. It's always a good way to focus our meetings.
I think it just reminds us why we up here volunteer and why the teachers and staff and the community volunteer, donate, the extra hours that teachers put in. I think, it's the good stuff. Sometimes we only hear the bad stuff and we only, get negative feedback. So I think we definitely need to do more of the fun stuff and just remind us that those little kids and big kids. My 6'2" son is not little, but he's still a little kid inside. All right, so we're going to move on to the approval of our consent items. Is there anything that any board member feels that they need to remove and discuss? If not, Diana, can I please have you read the consent calendar?
9.1 warrants dated November 1, 2019. 9.2 is minutes of the regular board meeting of October 17th and special board meeting November 1. 9.3 is personnel action report.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I move to approve.
Second.
Oh, you second, Jerry. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Okay. think I did it right tonight. All right. So we'll move to board action items. We have some very uncontroversial things this evening because we spent last month going over all of the board policies. So let me get my notes from last time, because there was a few things that needed to be reviewed, correct?
Yes.
A counseling office one. Sure. Okay.
This is the fun part of the meeting for those of you out there who now outnumber our in-studio audience.
I think we had some optional things, but I think we were including them all, correct? The one thing that I think I was concerned about was the requirements for the high school, which is,
The graduation
right,
requirements.
61.
And the high school counselling office, both staff over there reviewed it and said that it looked correct to them.
But I don't think it is. It still mentions.
What page?
Does it still mention,
Healthy, yeah,
Health
well,
and-
freshman's, sorry, that's the current one.
yeah.
Infotech and health, and it talks about 2 years of math versus 3. I'm sorry, I don't have the page on that one.
I'm looking.
On
I have science as page 23.
21, it does say completion of freshman seminar, but then in parentheses says information technology and healthy living.
Because that's,
So they did,
those are the items that it talks about in ed code. So
Okay.
we've got to mention how that class is. It's not just, it's a requirement that we're supposed to have a health class.
Right.
That's
And this
it.
is in
so that got
It's in-
changed, because,
Right.
so they changed it and approved it, because I don't think it said, unless there's another place it's listed.
So I'm looking at page.
Yeah, it's been changed, because see, now that says 3 courses, so somebody updated it.
This is the updated version, yeah.
Okay,
So
I
after you
misunderstood
reviewed it at
you,
the
I'm
last
sorry.
meeting, I made the changes that everybody had suggested needed doing, and then sent
And
the
then they
corrected
look- okay.
version to the counselling office for them to.
Okay. I misunderstood. I thought you just sent the draft that we looked at.
I sent the draft, they looked at the changes, and they said those changes look good, so then I incorporated the changes and removed the red line, green line.
Okay.
So all of these policies are now with changes as discussed and just in a simple word format rather
Okay.
than red, green, blue.
Okay, I apologize. I misunderstood.
I do have a question on page 20, under the same board policy 6146.1, the grad requirements. So it says, to obtain a high school diploma from Fort Bragg High School, Noyo High School, or Lighthouse Community Day School, students shall complete at least the following courses in grades 9 through 12, with each course being 1 year, unless otherwise specified, which I guess that takes care of it, but Noyo and Lighthouse do not have 1-year courses. They are credit-based.
They're, you know, we talked about this, and now I understand what you're saying. They're credit-based, but 10 credits of English counts as 1 year.
Right. So that's, this works then. It's okay. Okay, that's fine with me. I just want to make sure.
Anything else on this?
I think that was it, 'cause I think that you were just going to delete possibly some of the international exchange, because that didn't really apply, and that was my only other notes. So that might be, actually, I might have it flopped. That might be the next one, I'm sorry. That's in the July batch. Because we're on the 10.1.
Okay, anything else? No. Okay, if not, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the 10.1 board policy administrative regulations for February updates.
I second.
Any discussion? Any public comment? Okay.
Trustee Schneider,
Yes.
Trustee Metzen,
Yes.
Trustee Paoli,
Yes.
President Babcock,
Yes.
and Trustee Makala.
Yes.
Okay, 10.2, the July batch. I didn't have a whole lot of notes on that
Yeah,
one.
I mean, that's
so-
all I had was just the international exchange. Didn't really feel like it was relevant for us, and if we could delete it, we would, but I don't know what they
Which one
found
was
out.
that on?
Page 27 or 28, possibly.
I think we took that out because
Yeah.
so
Yep.
it is not listed as being one
Perfect.
of those policies because
Okay.
you had all said you didn't want to address that one.
Yes. That was my only notes.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, if not, do I have a motion?
I move we approve board policy and administrative regulations updates for July 10.2.
A second?
Discussion?
Okay. President Babcock?
Yes.
Trustee Makala?
Yes.
Trustee Metzen?
Yes.
Trustee Schneider?
Yes.
And Trustee Paoli?
Yes.
Okay, do we need a stretch break before we go to discussion, or? Okay. All right, 11.1, bond survey follow-up.
So Wendy, myself, and Barry Silva just started contacting people within the community to just get a pulse. You know, we did the survey, the random survey that the survey company just pulled people out by random. We talked to some other community stakeholders that we could contact. And what was interesting is that there was a mix of opinions. Very supportive of our school, 100% supportive of the schools. There was some cautious apprehension about a bond, and what was brought up time and time and again with my conversations was the hospital bond. It was brought up several times. You know, Becky, we just got burned on the hospital bond, right? And those were the words of one person. I would say that our community, at least from my conversations, and Wendy, feel free to chime in, I felt that people were cautiously supportive. There was no question about the support for the schools, but it's also tax season. I just got my property taxes, and I was able to see the impact of that. When I explained to people what is going on with our facilities and how we need to complete our modernization, and that I'm incredibly worried about Redwood, and then the aging portables that we have in the district, there was much more compassion and empathy for us. So I will tell you that the overall theme that I felt was a cautious support, and the hospital bond was brought up several times. In fact, I don't think I had one conversation where the hospital bond was not brought up. What was your feel?
I had much the same response from people. I think that if you decide to go ahead with the resolution next week, that it's going to be an education campaign as much as anything, of educating the public about what this is, what it's doing, that it's not going to operations, and really explaining the need for it. But I had much the same experience. People were, nobody said flat out.
Nate, can you turn up the mic, please?
No way, I'm sorry, I can actually talk louder, believe it or not. So it wasn't the people I talked to that I had a concern about. They got it, but they felt that there is some concern out there, and because of the hospital bond. So it'll be, that's the approach we're going to have to take, is make sure people understand what it's doing and what it's for.
So did you guys get the feeling, you gals, get the feeling that, I know we could choose between the $40, the $50, the $60 per 100,000 value on properties, that if we went toward the lower end, we'd have better support, or you just?
It didn't, when they did the random survey, it didn't seem like there was much
difference. Maybe you weren't here when they
Was that
presented that, but it didn't seem like the break was that much.
Uh-huh.
You know, that like it increased a little bit when it went down. I mean, they started with a number that was actually higher than what we are allowed to do. And so when we got to, you know, the 60, it was people kind of warmed up to that
Yeah.
lower amount. And the absolute yeses didn't go up that much
Mhm.
by lowering it to 50.
Right. No, I was here for his report. I just wondered when you spoke with people that you knew if they.
I don't think that's the main concern. I mean, $10 per 100,000 difference,
Right.
you know, I don't think is going to move them one direction or the other, to be honest.
That wasn't the concern from anybody that I spoke to.
Okay.
It was really just about, they just received their property taxes. They saw the impact from the bond from the hospital. You know, I had a number of people say, I wish you could have done this a couple years ago before we did this. And the reality is here we are. I would say to you that if you decide as a board we're going to do this, I say we go, you either do it or you don't do it, right? The difference between 50 and 60 is insignificant. The
Right.
difference for us between 50 and 60 is significant.
Huge.
So if we're going to do this, we do this once and we try and get this, all the renovations done. When I did speak to people, they had said, well, Becky, you need to apply for grants. 100% agree with you, 100% agree with you. The majority of facility grants right now require a matching fund. And that's what I explained to folks. We don't have a matching fund. So I agree with Wendy that if we do this, that we are definitely going to have to educate our community on the why and how it's going to be used. It's not used for salaries. It's not going to be used for new vehicles. And quite frankly, we have to be committed to however we prioritize this. We do this with our community. We have community meetings. If we're able to do this, it's going to be a couple years before we even break ground anywhere. But we have to commit to a plan. And like I'm going to encourage you, no more portable buildings. At the very minimum, if we have to do some prefabricated buildings, those have a greater lifespan. I could almost do that. As much brick and mortar we can do, you know, the better. But the first stage is, how do we feel about this? I will be very honest with you and just repeat that there was cautious support. The folks that I spoke to had said, you know, Becky, we always support the schools. We know you need it. We don't have kids in the school anymore, but we know this is necessary. And then some people said, you know, we just got our taxes. This was a big kick in the gut. I believe that if we can have discussions on the why and do tours of our facility and the aging portables, you don't even need a tour of the facilities. Just stand on Lincoln and look at Portable Row and know that that's falling apart. Or go to Redwood and into the portable where the ceiling is now coming through. And we're just to that point where we cannot throw good money after bad. So we'll have to prioritize. You'll have a robust discussion if this is something you want on next week's agenda to vote on as an action if you want to pass the resolution. My gut tells me that if we educated our community and explained the why and showed them our facilities, I think we could get people to support it. What I had said to a few people was, we have a decision as a community. Do we look at what we have right now and try and be proactive so it doesn't cost us as much to fix, or do we wait for it to fall apart and then look for every emergency fund that we can and then be left with no choices? My concern is that if we don't do something very soon and we are left with a reactive approach, that we're going to do something silly like have to get more portables. And that's just not a good option. It's not a good option. So if you're going to do it, I say the time is now. because we're at a place where we are going to have to make decisions about the 30-plus portables in this district. It cannot continue, and we cannot continue to ask our maintenance crew to try and continue to keep them afloat. It's just not a good use of resources, and it's not a good use of money, to be quite honest with you. I think someone equated it to the saying lipstick on a pig. That's what we're kind of at this point. So we need to look at it very seriously, and then we need to ask ourselves, are we being proactive or reactive? I would prefer us to be proactive. We'll get a flavor from the community as we continue to move forward. Someone had said to me, well, are you doing planning meetings? And my thought right now is that it doesn't make sense to do any planning meetings if we don't know if this is going to fly or not. It doesn't make sense to get the community all riled up. So I would rather do a campaign on how to educate our folks on what the needs are of the school, what we're able to do. And then if we're able to get a bond passed, then have the sit down and really map out with the community what the needs are. We put some requests for proposals out from architects and start the process of how we move to the next stages. And we take a little bit of time, to be quite honest with you. I don't want us to rush into something, and I want us to be able to at least educate ourselves and move forward with what the priorities that our community believes should be at the top of that list. So it's a tricky place for us because no one likes to ask people for more money. The reality is that we have to look at this as being proactive or reactive. And we've said this since the beginning, since I've been with you all. I've said very clearly, there is going to come a point where we are going to be pushed into a corner with our facilities, and we are going to have no choice but to react. If we are able to educate our community and get a bond passed, then we can apply for facility grants, because that will be our match, and our money will go a lot further. But right now, we're just stuck. If we do nothing, we would have to be coming to you at least, I would say minimally in the next year, and we're gonna have to replace some portables, because they're not gonna keep standing.
So is this on the agenda for next week?
That's up
Yes.
to you.
Well, if you want to, well, it can be on the agenda next week, and you can approve it or reject it.
Yes.
The resolution.
So I know we won't owe Isom and Associates any money, but what would it cost us from the county to put it on?
In March.
To put it on the ballot?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the good news is, there's already a ballot going out. So it's not like it's going to be a special ballot just for us.
I know, but when I remember that being kind of this thing, it still cost the district money when my election came, even though there really wasn't a real election.
I don't think we're talking about a whole lot of money. I mean, it's a,
We can
it's a
have that for you next
primary,
week.
and I don't know, to be honest.
I'll
I
find
was
out.
just curious, worst
Yeah.
case scenario, what we were out if it didn't fly.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time, well, the one time we had to pay for the whole thing. But the other time, I don't remember. I
I
don't
mean,
want to
being
throw
a
a number out
primary,
there.
it's gonna be a big ballot
Yeah.
anyway, so I think the bigger the ballot, the less we pay to get on it.
The more things, yes, because everything that's on there, so you're gonna have your primaries, you're going to have the state is putting a bond on there,
Ukiah and Mendo are both putting a bond on there.
but that's not us.
Oh.
That's a different ballot. So it just depends on how many things there are. But what did that say?
It said 5,000 for winter rain and recall.
But that was a special,
Yeah.
And that was 5,000.
yeah.
But they're
we
a
have
smaller
more
district.
people than that would go to.
Yeah,
I
smaller.
really don't remember.
We can
I
ask
just
and
don't
find
remember.
out. I mean, we can
I
have
can
a-
go back and look.
It's not a bit, I mean, I think we should go for it, and either way, I was just curious, trying to ask questions, what
Right.
we would be out.
It is tricky because they're reluctant, the folks are reluctant but if not saying anything before March is a little risky, because then they'll be blindsided by this.
No, I think we absolutely
Yeah.
have to do
before
a
March.
campaign, an
Right,
educational
but-
campaign.
And then with the lapse, if nothing would be going on with the money for a couple of years, we still have to address the portables like a year sooner than we want. So I don't know what the plan is there. And then you don't want people to think it's like new money. Like it's really complicated for an average, citizen to understand, they're not following it and how to make it so simple that they understand the process. But
That's why we hired the people we did.
yes.
Right.
They will walk us through that entire process.
So yeah, are you guys ready for this? Because it's a huge commitment.
It's
At the DO office as well.
It's 3 months of our lives, to be quite honest. Well, 4.
Well, I mean, then if it passes that level, I mean, just having.
We are going to get cornered on this either way. We are either, like I said, going to be reactive and be stressed out of our eyeballs on where we're going to put kids, or we're going to deal with it head first and at least
On your time frame.
Right, and
Right.
and I will tell you that the remodel that we did with the high school, that the two of you got to live with me on that, the remodel from the high school was super ridiculous. Now, ridiculous because we had to live through it. The reality was it worth it? Absolutely. Every minute of it was. Because we are never going to get this again in my lifetime. And the lifespan on this is at a much different level than a portable building. So we've gone through it once. We'll go through it again. Does the headache warrant the outcome? Absolutely. So it will be a brief time, and maybe not so brief. And the high school was tricky because we had to do the lease back. The company that we had didn't work out, so it was a little tricky. But again, I go back to the comment that I made earlier, that the discomfort, the inconvenience, still, the reward outshined all of that. So when we sit down, if we can sit down, please can we sit down and start prioritizing what we need to do with our sites? That is a much better position for all of us to consider, rather than being in a place where, okay, now we have to look at what can we do with what little facility money we have instead of trying to take it out of something bigger. So I believe in doing as much as we can to be proactive in our approach, so that we have choices. Right now we have choices. There is going to come a time that if we continue to do nothing, we will have no choices. They will be limited. So
Any pros or cons to putting it on next week's agenda?
Well, we have a little bit of a time crunch, so
Yeah,
it has
I
to
was
be
gonna
on
say-
next week's agenda
I
because
said-
it has to be done within 88 days of the election.
I
So
thought that's what I asked.
the first week of December would be too late. I mean,
I said next week.
Yeah, no, you're
Oh.
saying with any problem with bringing it then?
Oh,
If it's going to be brought, and that bringing it isn't saying you're going to approve it or adopt it. Bringing it is presenting it to you for discussion and adoption or rejection. So, but that process has to happen next week for timing purposes. Whether you decide to yay or nay it is irrelevant. Because if you did approve it, then it has to be done within that time frame to be on the ballot in March.
So I'm fully in support of this process. I think we should move forward with it. I know it has to be done next week. I won't be at the meeting on the 21st, so I don't know if we can agendize it for the 23rd, if we think it's going to be a close call. But I look forward to passing a resolution, hopefully, and working with the community to get this done.
Let's move ahead.
So then, this will be on the November 21st board meeting agenda.
okay, so 11.2 is the teacher choice for parents, so this is the recommendation sheet, or?
So these are samples. So one of the things that we talked about in the last board meeting, whoever, I don't know if it was you, Kathy, or someone else, but that we were not identifying this in a way that community understood what we were
It
talking about.
actually came from a public input, I think.
Was it? Well, thank you. So so I asked Mr. Kale, hey, Mr. Kale, if we could do this, what do you think it should look like? So Mr. Kale very kindly sent me the examples that you have in your board packet. And just to clarify, one of the things that we do right now in Fort Bragg Unified is that parents get this little form and they can circle 3 teachers that they think would work best with their kiddos. That is incredibly difficult to maintain, which is why this has been on the board discussion. We're probably not going to bring this to action until, I would say, February or March, just to get it out there a little bit more so we could have more discussion with it and we can fine tune what that sample is going to look like. So this is just to give you an idea of what the samples look like. Mr. Kale and Ms. Erickson will work together to come up with the sample that they say, this is what we want, which means they're going to talk with their teachers, they're going to talk with their parents' clubs, they're going to have a little bit more community discussion on it. My direction right now with you as a board, with our administrative team, is the teacher choice selection process. We're not in a place to maintain it. It's not supportive for teacher morale. It's because of our movement within our staff. There's so many reasons, and we've talked about this every month. So what I wanted to bring forward to you this month were some examples so you could see some of the ideas that we're using or utilizing to come up with our own tool to do this. And you can see what other schools are doing.
I really like this last one, where my child would benefit from a teacher who, so you're really having to look at the type of structure the teacher has, what kind of relationship we have with the kids, and I don't mean, I assume all teachers have good relationships, but, you know, some teachers are more casual, teachers are more strict, whatever, and kids react differently, and I like that you can say exactly what kind of person you know your child gets along with without naming names, and you don't. And then I also like should be separated from. I don't know if that is important for everybody, but I know for my granddaughter it's very important.
Well, and it's a small town, you know, I mean, our kids are platooned together from the time they're 3 years old and start their first days of preschool to the bitter end. So we understand those little nuances of a small town. So just so you know, again, I'm asking Mr. Kale and Ms. Erickson to work together with their leadership teams and their staff and their parents' clubs to be able to say, these are some of the models we're looking at. We're going to bring this to the board for approval. And I'm thinking, Mr. Kale, March, so that as we're doing the orientations for our families moving forward, that we could have these ready for kindergarten registration in April, and then in May when we do orientations with kids. How does that timeline sound okay for folks? Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm going to suggest is that by February, we have a solid example so that it can be the final discussion in February, and then it can go to board action in March. Does that sound good, Mr. Kale?
Yeah, it sounds fine. And what's interesting is...
Can you go to the mic? Sorry, Mr. Kale.
What's interesting is that these are all real examples. And I can tell you, like, researching this, schools are doing all sorts of things. I mean, from all the way from no input whatsoever, like zero, you get what you get, to, you know, to what we were doing. I mean, we were really the sort of the extreme of you know, what teacher do you really want, and we'll try and get you that. And from an administrative point of view and from a teacher point of view, it's really a tough place. You know, you try and make 408 kids happy, you know, 2 parents, or, you know, I mean, it's a lot. Mm-hmm. It's hard. And plus, we always have new teachers. You know, and some of our best teachers, some of our most amazing teachers this year are the ones that are right brand new out of the box. And nobody selected them because nobody knows them. And it's really sad. So Anyway, you know what I mean? Like it's an interesting sort of dilemma that we're in, but I really like looking at the idea of who would work, the type of person that would work the best with my child. And that's what we really are thinking about.
So I really like how the two sites are working together, and then of course pushing it out to their families, because you want it to be relevant for families. You know, people don't like to fill out paperwork that doesn't seem responsive. So I'm hoping that what choices you make are relevant for the family, so they feel like you're not just giving a bio of their kid and it's not really going anywhere. But I think it'd be kind of cool for the teachers to get these to kind of see what their personalities are, so they can maybe have their curriculum kind of gauge with the interests or something with the kids to make it so that there's some meaning to it, other than, because even with this form, it's going to be difficult. But I think that you're doing the right track of getting it out and working together. So it's not just one person just pushing this out.
Well, and I really want to put a plug out for our Redwood and our Dana Gray teams who do the student class lists, because they really look for leveled, balanced classes. They want a balanced group. They want a balanced group academically, emotionally. They're looking for balance on so many levels, and it's difficult to do in a small town because you're trying to make sure that you pay close attention to the personalities, you're paying close attention to the student needs. You don't want one class stacked one way or another. You know, not one teacher should have all boys or all girls, or so it's really quite an art on how you put 140 kids in the same grade level, and how you move them into groups so that the classes are balanced. It's really important. It's important for kids' education. It's important for our teachers to be able to provide the best that they can, and it's important for our administrators to be able to balance the behavior and work with everybody to keep it all moving. So what was interesting is by changing the name on this agenda, brought more attention to it this month. It was very exciting. So teacher choice for parent process. Thank you, Anna, for wording that so kindly. A few people that I'd spoken to me about this, I'd said, this has been on the agenda for the last 2 months. And they said, no, it hasn't. I said, well, we called it the wrong thing, but it's been on the agenda for the last 2 months. Go look at the background sheet. And so that was interesting. So having this on the agenda for December, January, and we bring you something in February that you can look at. The one in February will be as close to final as possible, and then in March we'll have you vote on it so that we can make this change and then get this out to our families.
Are you looking for feedback on what you presented, or are you just giving us?
You're welcome to talk about any of these samples, say what you like, just like Mary did, and things that you would like our administrators to consider and our teachers to consider.
Sure. So I think on the last one that Mary likes, I wouldn't want to see should not be placed with and then specific names. I really like the Rutherford Elementary? Because it asks both the parent and the kid about certain aspects. There may be too many questions on here, but I don't know. I think having a child's perspective, if they want to give it, is always an interesting place to come from. And the first one, I like the general broadness of it too. Like, what information can you share that might be relevant when we place your kid?
When I saw that one, though, I thought, oh my gosh, who's going to read all these? Because you could use the back of the paper as well.
Well, I think, I think I like that almost as a title to one of the other forms. Like, this form is used to help place your child for the next school year, or something. Instead of an information form or a whatever. So hopefully that'll just input from a parent.
Maybe it needs to say, like, what inspires your child, that kind of thing. Like, where's their passion? That's important.
Can I say, I really like the one that has the student input, because hidden in those, like, what's my favorite hobby, or what's my favorite, anyway, I forget what all the questions are, but, you know.
I'm good at
what I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know, that's very kid language. Oh, yeah. And you know, an 8, 9, 10-year-old could certainly answer that. And it would give you a lot of input, you know, a lot of interesting information.
A dream I have is.
Yeah, placing them. So, anyway.
So
Thanks for this, Ann.
at one time, Redwood had a sheet, because I remember filling it out, and I even photocopied it, so I could have a record of my children, you know, how I interpreted them as a parent. Know that the teacher felt the same way, but so we have a form somewhere.
I believe they still do.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
And this is just based on my experience as a parent. There is the current teacher selection form, but there's also a survey that, so the teacher selection forms have always been very confidential. That's not something that the teachers see, they're only seen by a very limited number of people. And then the survey, which has more of these kinds of things, is something that the teacher gets at Redwood at the beginning of the year. So they would have that background and input from the parents.
And I would like as much as possible for Redwood and Dana Gray to have a consistent form. So it's the same thing, so the parent doesn't have to say, okay, I've got one kid at Redwood, one kid at Dana Gray, which one do I use? It just needs to be, whatever we feel is important at Redwood should be important at Dana Gray. So I would like that to be a uniform.
Well, and then the parents are trained, so they
Yes.
fill out the same thing every year for 6 years or 7 if they're in TK.
Right.
And then so as a parent that has written more of this narrative stuff than the 3 names, because I have 2 very different children that one needed a very, very structured or still does, needs a very structured teacher. He will smell blood and that's the end. Love that kid, but so it says should not be placed with Mr., Miss, or Mrs. Maybe not the name, but I, as a parent, really described really what he shouldn't be with, but yet my older son, I wanted that kind of nurturing, free, whatever. But Ryan needs the hammer.
Hope he's not watching.
He knows it because I tell him. He knows.
That's okay. We only have 3 people watching right now.
And it might be Ryan, but he knew exactly when I asked who his a few teachers were. It's all about what's best for both of them, not just the child. But so I do like if you word that some way. I know you guys know that, but I think it is important, for those things too. You do see what it is, the benefit from the teacher who does this, but also what would be a bad match. And then I'm listening to some of these things, and it's like the teachers know. There were, back to my youngest, there were these 5 boys that they were tracked. Do not put these 5 boys together. And, I mean, poor teacher, whoever does all that stuff, because you'd have to spread those 5 boys out in the 7 classes, and then anyway, it was, but they do better now.
Yeah.
But, the teachers know most of this stuff. They maybe not who's on that committee, but the teachers know who, and what the kids' hobbies are, and what the kids' interests are, and.
Well, and I said this last year when we were doing class placements, the wild card for us is always kindergarten. I can't tell you how much I wish that what we could do at kindergarten is that it's 3 weeks of discovery. We figure out who our kiddos are, because we have some kindergarten classrooms that just have more rambunctious little kiddos, or they're all together. Or we figure out, kiddos who've never met before come together and
fireworks.
They're fireworks. And so, but I know that would be really hard in the community to have your kiddo come to school for the first time, your kiddo's starting to like a teacher, and we say, okay, switch. So I understand that, but it's really difficult to watch, because we have to move some kiddos around just because the classroom dynamic is so heavy, or all of a sudden, 3 kids who were going to enroll decided to move, and so now we have a classroom with only 20 kids, and then we have another classroom with 24. So,
of course, as we move to something like this, once you establish a routine of that's how we do it, people will adapt. I mean, we all get used to something. So just know the first 3 weeks is the kid's going to move around, and they're going to get to meet everybody, and
we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
And then you have to add another kindergarten teacher because
At the last
That's
minute,
right,
yeah.
at the
We
last
had to do
minute.
that. We had to add a 2nd grade classroom at the last minute. And it was really hard for parents, and I understand, I get it.
But at least your classes would be balanced at this point.
So before people start viewing this video and say, Becky says that we are moving kiddos around, we are not saying that. I think there is some good discussion to be had about having an input form. That will happen with Mr. Kale and Ms. Erickson working with their leadership teams and their staff and their parents club to get us something that they feel is meaningful and useful by our February meeting. And then you'll get to look at it, add any input that you have, and then we'll bring something to you to vote on for March. And that's when the implementation will begin on April 1. That's going to be the goal.
So I believe I've asked this, Anna, but there is nothing we have to change in the policy, right? It just says that there's.
The policy currently says that that parent inputs can be used, but that is not ever the deciding factor.
But they, so the way it reads, this would be
Yes,
considered the
this
form
would-
and we'd be
yes,
fine.
yeah,
Okay.
totally.
To make sure we weren't supposed to do anything on actually our job.
So maybe what we'll do, and do you
Not-
remember the board? We'll get a copy of the board policy just to review before we get to that point in March where we take
Because in reality, this is not our realm of scope. This is, I mean, I appreciate the transparency. I know that's how we get the information out to the public, but this is the how, and, you know, that's not really our job. But we will be happy to view it and put our stamp on it, but that's, am I making sense?
Yes, you are making sense. And the reason I am bringing this to you, because I fully understand that this is going to be a hot ticket item.
No,
And-
I agree with that, but, you know, bottom line is the school, this is a school procedure. It's not a board policy, or apparently it's not a board policy, and that's.
It is school procedure.
Right, so you guys could really do whatever you want.
Understood.
But I do
However,
appreciate.
why eliminate you from the fun? So,
Yeah, we'll have a full room, I'm sure, come February and March. Okay, any other questions or suggestions?
Nope, looking forward to it.
'Cause you
Really?
went-
I
You
am.
you went through it, I mean, it got brought up during your.
Oh, yeah, several times,
Yeah.
sure.
So you've already been through it a few times.
well, and I think
You've already
what-
been through it a few times.
And I think I was
I-
in the audience.
I think the timing of this is good because we've had such large turnover in staff. And we've had several parents who say, well, I didn't get my top 3 choices. And I literally sat with parents and said, who are your top 3 choices? And they gave me their top 3 choices. And I said, and where are those people right now? Well, none of them are in the grade level. Well, then how could I give you your top 3 choices? You know, that was the difficulty. So when we go through the grade levels, you know, we have 2 brand new teachers in kindergarten who weren't on a list. We have 2 brand new teachers in first grade who weren't on a list. We have 3 teachers in second grade who weren't on a list. We had a movement to third grade and 2 new teachers in third grade. So if you go through the grade levels and start really looking at it, we are setting ourselves up to have our parents be angry. So it's just not a good practice. We know this. I think the timing of it is good because we've been able to at least show that we've been trying to do this. It's not working. We've had several disgruntled people. But I also know that every single disgruntled person I've spoken to, I've been able to say, try this teacher out for a couple weeks. You are going to love her. And without fail, they've all come back and said, okay, Becky, you're right. She's great. So let's just take away some of the anxiety. So again, bringing you in on the fun, because this is good stuff here in Fort Bragg Unified. And looking at this, we're talking about it over several months, so there are no surprises. Changing the name on the board description brought it to the forefront. So we'll just continue on that road. We'll get something to you.
That would be a great topic for board chat.
Oh,
It would.
that would be super exciting.
For the next 3
December.
months.
And if for the 2 people that are listening, if there is a better time or place, you know, please let us know. We're trying to be out there and available for people.
Kathy had Keurig and muffins. You missed
Yeah,
out.
there's food, coffee.
Okay, so we're moving on now to some more fun.
Board policies.
Do you guys want to go?
Mr. Kale and Ms. McGee, if you would like to sneak out, this is the meat and the potatoes of the real fun stuff, popcorn eating kind of things.
Diana's figured it out where it's usually an hour, so.
It's 80 pages of board policies and administrative regulations.
One set.
Thank you for being here. It's exciting to have people in the audience. Oh, and it's only 60 pages.
So, yeah, and there's only one packet.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Okay. So I think, Ann, tonight, we're going to try to stay vocal because we get later and tireder and quieter.
I'll be the
So
vocal monitor.
we're going to stay using our microphones and speaking loudly, and then Anna's going to walk us through
Yes,
with
I
her
told her
so we
about
can
that.
stay on
Okay,
page
great.
numbers.
Yeah.
So we don't have to look at our devices.
Yeah, we're ready. Go, Anna.
I did too.
Do you want me to do it?
Oh,
I did
yep,
too,
I got
but
a
I gave
page
you
12 was
credit.
my first
No,
question,
I
too.
told them it was your
I did.
request.
So.
It was a collaboration.
So the first one is about our LCAP, the minor changes that are in there. If you look at this, it's really, the majority of this we already do. It's about the plan development and how we're supposed to solicit community involvement, how our school plans have to be addressed through our school site councils, which we do.
Yep.
I have to say, I was excited when I read this because we have been in front of this from the beginning when we centralized our goals and we spread them into our school plans. So a lot of schools, a lot of districts are trying to make this happen. We've already made this happen. So a lot of districts are still trying to juggle strategic plan, LCAP, and we've embodied the fact that our LCAP is a 3-year document. That is our strategic plan. That's what we want to move towards. So instead of having all these plans that we've typically had in districts, we're really using our LCAP as our one. So when I read through this, I was like, oh, we do this, we do this, we do this. So there was nothing really in here that I was too worried about. A lot of this was just basic just updates and law changes.
And there was a big section that was taken out
Yeah.
and then put into another policy further on. So they were just rearranging the information from one policy and putting it into a new policy. So it was a shuffle. A lot of the
I saw the
information,
technical
yeah. A lot
assistants
of-
had
yeah.
moved out, and I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so this was taken from here and then new
Gotcha.
policy created, which we're going to get to.
So if you move along to,
Yeah, my first question's on page 12.
Yeah.
okay, 12.
Oh, I'm on the big thing. Okay, I gotta switch.
And that is intervention. Okay, so this, all the acronyms have changed. Because originally it was technical assistance and now it's differentiated assistance.
My question is just about, is this really what we're doing? Because it just may be revised to reflect district practice. So that was my only concern, is that, do we need to change anything to meet our needs?
I think what we need to do on this is when we are developing our LCAP goals for this next round and we have our new template, that we have to be a little bit more targeted, which is when I talked to in my superintendent report about the LCAP goals, I think we need to be a little bit more targeted on what we're doing. One of the things that concerns me right now, which you're going to hear about in next week's board meeting, I'm desperately worried about our math. It's something that we have to address more strategically and very targeted in our LCAP. And we have to make a very strategic plan on how we are going to address our math. It is unacceptable that our kids are lagging behind in that. And so when I look at this about what we're doing, are we doing it, are we not doing it, we are writing our plans, we are creating our school plans and our site plans so that they are all intertwined and connected to our LCAP goals, but we have to be a little bit more strategic and more specific. So, was there something in here specifically that caught your eye on?
No, because it's really boots on the ground, so I just, if.
And a lot of the information in this policy was moved from the previous policy that we looked at, so a lot of it is just relocated.
And really the whole idea behind the LCAP is to, like a needs assessment. This is where we're lagging. This is what we need to improve on. This is the needs of our students. So how are we going to address those specific needs? And that's what we need to do in our LCAP. We've had big buckets, big umbrellas. So we're going to keep those big umbrellas because the different sites have different needs. But what needs to be more strategic and more targeted are the actions within those big buckets. So we can very strategically say, this is what we're going to do, this is the data that we're going to use to evaluate what we're doing, and then this is how we're going to analyze the data to determine if what we're doing is working. That's the part that we need to be a little bit better at in this next LCAP season, so.
Is it common, are you seeing that in a lot of schools, that they're dropping in the math?
It's across the state.
It's across the state.
Yeah, no, that was.
And you'll see that next week.
Yes,
Right.
it's everyone's
So-
struggling.
Everyone's struggling with the math. Part of this is that we have been so focused, we continue to be so focused on reading and language. Like even our toughest groups, our kiddos have made increases in reading and language arts. We have to bring it more to the forefront on things that we can do to get our kids to be more critical thinkers. And that oftentimes can be very difficult for folks to make come alive in a classroom. So, for instance, we had Escape the Bus here today at the middle school, and Anna told me, Becky, you're going on Escape the Bus and you're going to do this with the kids, you're going to be one of the adults. And of course, my first instinct is, Anna, do you know how much work I have right now on my desk? And she literally said, we're going to do this. It got to go. And so, you know, when Anna says you have to do something, you say, okay. So I went to Escape the Bus. But what was great about Escape the Bus, it was really all about critical thinking, problem solving, collaboration, looking at things outside of the box, doing it differently. And then I go back to the year that we did the Amazing Race for the staff, thinking outside the box, doing things collaboratively, having people work as a team in a group. There's a reason for that. So it was a good reminder for me. You know, we did the Amazing Race one year, previews of upcoming attractions, staff, you're in for it. We're going to do, you know, some type of outside the box thinking again, because we have to model what we want in our classrooms. And companies and what's happening now in the real world, ask your daughter who works for Apple, right? It is a much different landscape on the world our kids are joining.
You're going to be uncomfortable.
They're going to be
trying something new.
And we need to move to those critical thinking skills. I had a conversation today with Math Solutions, a professional development provider, about what we can do to try and bring in more professional development for our teachers, recognizing that we have so few opportunities for them. So we're actually having this discussion on creating and building 1-hour webinars for our teachers that they can come in and out of, and then giving DCEC units for them, but on number sense, on critical thinking, on problem solving. That's not just what's 32 divided by 5. You know, so we're looking at different things. We're trying to get creative. I'm going to be working with the County Office of Education so that if we can do these kind of 1-hour webinars, can we just offer it to the whole county so that we're all sharing the cost? But teachers can choose to come in and out of them, so you can do them at your leisure. So when we look at board policies about LCAP, what you're going to be seeing are things that we're doing, but we know that we can do them better. Strategic and targeted, those are the big ones right now. So LCAP, there was nothing in there that caught my eye as a big aha moment. Anna's synopsis of things got moved around, that's really what happened. It's stuff that we are already doing, so know that. The policy on waivers, that's really optional. It was funny, I was reading through this and I'm like, what kind of waivers do we ask for? And those would be any kind of waivers in ed code that's ed code says you have to do this, you have to provide this, and if for some reason we can't, I don't know if we need this policy, to be honest with you. Did you get a flavor when you were reading it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought there's several of them that are optional, and my original thing was to maybe we say no, because
I wasn't too worried.
And this is an optional policy that we don't have already, so we've opted out of having it in the past.
Because it asks something about needing, and I wrote a note, what waivers would we need that we need site council approval? I don't know, it just seemed that then that's another,
Well, I dug deeper into it to figure out, like, have we ever used this? And I couldn't find, the only waivers are like for the days, but that has nothing to do with site council. We can apply for waivers if we don't have like a teacher, you know, for certain classrooms with credentialing, but that's a whole different, that's not site council getting parent approval for that. So I was
thought
looking.
this was kind of saying you needed site council approval, didn't I?
Well,
That's why I was kind of like,
I read this and I kept asking myself, I don't know if we need this. And I would just say that if it's optional and we don't think we need it, let's leave it out until, unless we see a real need. Wendy, you've been on the board before. Is that something?
I don't, in reading this, I don't see anything that we've ever considered before.
Yeah, I didn't.
And if it ever did come up, we could always go back and refer to this for how to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not,
any thoughts on this end of the table?
I agree.
Okay.
If we don't need it, let's leave it out.
Okay.
Okay.
Didn't really
So campus security, just know that we do a lot of this already. The audio on our cameras is off. So Ari, bless his soul, came and told us right from the beginning, turn it off. We're not supposed to do it. We said, great. So,
And I did send these out to both Barry and Ari to look at.
okay.
Great.
So I thought, oh, gosh.
And so I have one of the things that was in here was about that we were supposed to have the signage, and we have signage, but I don't think that it's
Not
everywhere.
everywhere.
It's like at when you walk into the school, there's a
the
sign,
lobby, yeah.
but it's not spread out enough. So we're going to get that fixed.
Okay.
And then besides the signage, the prior written notice, I don't know if you saw that.
Mhm.
I was wondering, can we do that in our beginning of the year?
To have.
Yeah, those.
Yes.
So is that in our beginning of the year?
It was not in our beginning of the year, and a chunk of staff did sign the approval to have cameras in the classrooms, specifically ones that would need it more than others.
Mhm.
And every once in a while, another staff member sends one in, but it has not been done universally.
Okay, so, but I think for the prior written notice part, I think we can put that in, put with
Yeah,
our
it's a
Aries
simple,
registration.
simple form.
So that'll get moved into our beginning of the year notices so that they have the prior, our folks have the prior written notice. And so this policy, as we update it, will be going into effect when we start the year in August. We'll get the prior written notice out. We're gonna do the signage right now, but know that the audio is already off. Okay. And then a lot of this next stuff, I think those were all the big ones. Let's see.
The
Personnel.
AR is optional on this one. I don't know if we want to keep.
Page
or-
27, the personnel.
The AR is optional on the campus security?
No.
No,
on,
that's not.
Probation permits. Sorry. I thought
Oh,
we moved
okay,
on.
yeah. On the probation permits, I saw this, it was,
27, 28.
there's, and I think
There's
that's
also an
AR
optional paragraph on
4116. And I would just say no. A person who, as achieved permanent status as a certificated employee in another school district may be employed by the governing board as a permanent certificated employee. That's not something I don't think we want to open up at this point.
Okay. Jerry said on page 24, there's an optional paragraph. Is that what you're reading?
No, that's the
That-
prior.
This was on page 27. which
Okay,
is-
that's the AR.
Oh, okay.
The optional paragraph is a paragraph that we did have before, but it does have edits.
Does what?
Has edits.
So I wasn't worried.
It's wording.
I wasn't worried about that paragraph because we already do it.
Okay.
Employees shall receive professional development and assistance, which may consist of in-service training and or meetings with employees evaluator to discuss areas of strength. We do that already. And then,
So remove the paragraph.
which one?
Sorry, no, it's okay. Do we have this paragraph?
Let's see. Such notices shall be, and this is for not.
Yeah, that is something we do already.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And the one that caught my eye was on page 20, is that 6? 27. And that's that one right there. The following is option. I would just say, no, we don't want that option.
Well, and I read that, I mean, I don't have a, but it says May, because I went through and thought, I don't think we want, but it does say May.
It does say May.
So-
My only
so-
concern is that I don't want to be picking and choosing why him and not her, or why
Right.
her and not him, or why that teacher and not that teacher.
Mhm.
I worry about the loosey-goosey favoritism that it could potentially cause because we are in such a small town. It just makes me nervous. I will tell you, I would never do it.
Yeah,
Just
it doesn't make any sense to me.
so, but thank you for seeing the May, because I didn't notice the May. I just put no.
Well, and that's, I was thinking that too, but then I went back and read it and said, it says May, so we could leave it in.
Yeah.
That's up to you. If you want to leave it in, that's your
No,
call.
you're the one that's got to deal with it.
Yeah,
so.
I would say no.
Okay. Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And you're fine with the AR?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's nothing real exciting there. Just taking out that, because we already do all of that. So the next one is funny. It's fun. The dress and
Yeah.
groom. Woohoo!
And it's all to do with
Dress and
hair.
grooming.
That's right. We love dress code. So a lot of the changes were about hair.
Yeah.
About hair. So there was nothing in there that made me.
That's probably because the guy that made the referee in the wrestling meet somewhere in California.
Oh,
made
yeah,
him cut his,
I forgot about that.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, that's right.
So there was nothing in here that was in shock or awe to me. It made perfect sense, and that was not a big deal. I don't know if anybody had anything going on with that. I wasn't worried about that.
I don't have any notes on the next one either.
35, I think, is the next one.
Yeah, that's what I have, the mobile devices.
Oh, this one's for, use of smartphones.
I have a note about, since it's optional not to use it, because there is a statement in there that lets a doctor write a note that says a student can use a phone. And I know that we have had doctors that have written notes for very difficult things to be implemented in a school, or trying to get students out of things.
The only I don't. Yeah, I have to use my smartphone for my pacemaker. I actually send in transmissions through my phone. I would hope none of our kiddos do that. But I can see some use for it if they're diabetic and they're on a pump.
Yes, but I know that you and I have worked with here when we got a plethora of note, and I can't remember what it was, but there was a doctor that moved into town and started writing these excuses.
Get out of PE free.
It wasn't that. It was something else. It just made me remember that. That if somebody, somebody gets on
No,
that,
I agree.
I want my kid to have their phone because I want to be able to get a hold of them, and they go, this is so unpolitically correct, but like the medical marijuana when it first came out, you just went and paid for.
Right.
I mean, I don't think people sit around and read board policy and find ways to get their kids out of certain things, but that was my first knee jerk, is that right now we're dealing with cell phones pretty well, I believe.
I would agree.
And since this was optional, maybe not add insult.
Well, does a 504 or an IEP supersede this board policy? I mean, if a kid had a 504 because they had diabetes.
That's
and the
different.
doctor said-
That always supersedes everything.
So we could take that out of here.
We could.
And a 504, I
But
mean, everybody would always have.
And
that
it does say the use of a cell phone, smartwatch, pager, blah, 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 during instructional time in an unauthorized manner. So really, unless the teacher says, hey kids, take out your smartphone, we're going to do some math, they're not using their smartphones in an authorized manner. So it is kind of at the discretion of what the students are doing in the classroom at the time with what the teacher.
And then the, just so you know, we have not done a search and seizure of a kid's phone. We leave that up to the parents. We haven't
You
done
don't-
that,
yeah,
so.
Okay.
I'm on page 36.
Keeping up.
So is there anything on this one that, other than the doctors? Okay, so on page 38, we have more dress and grooming for students.
I think this one was also edited mostly for the hair issues. But
Well,
I did leave some of the notes in because I know that it was discussed at a last
was really
meeting.
interesting,
Yes,
actually,
I know.
the court
Yeah,
cases.
so I left it in because it was interesting. And then the district can't prohibit gang apparel, but you can at site level, which was another interesting one.
My next note is until the next one.
Okay, on page 41.
I didn't write the page on that.
Are we on
Tuberculosis testing?
Yeah, is it,
Okay.
is that really what we're doing, was my question.
Any student who is reasonably suspected of having active tuberculosis shall be excluded.
I don't even know how many times this happened.
Okay. I don't even know if we've even had this, to be quite honest with you. What has happened if we have a sick kiddo with a recurring cough or a cough that's uncharacteristic, our health aides call mom and dad or call family and say, hey, family, can we help figure out what's going on with the kiddo? So,
Or something about whether they've been exposed, but how would we ever know, you know?
yeah.
As long as we're not locking anything in, I was
I think
fine
the only
with it.
thing that it made me a little nervous was the concept of signing a waiver that you don't want your students to have the screening, but then we're insisting that parents and staff and other people who are in the classrooms are required. That was just a
Right.
little lopsided.
That they had that ability.
Right.
When you can't, the waivers for others, it doesn't work anymore.
The reality is our teachers and our health aides are actually pretty on top of it. If someone has an active, if they're actively ill, the teachers will immediately say, hey, why don't you go hang out with Nurse Tanya or hang out with Nurse Hilda and figure out if we can make you feel better, help you feel better. So I wasn't too worried about it.
And there's several comments about the health department requiring it, so it's probably referring to if there was like a TB outbreak or something, or some real,
You'd have to notify
known
that.
happening.
And that's like the schools who've had the measles outbreaks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really important to know who has or has not, and so this one didn't catch my attention very much. I don't know if it caught anybody else's. So the next one is this.
Oh, there was one thing. It's just said all district staff shall receive information on how tuberculosis is spread and prevented and treated.
Okay, so we need to do that.
It's an optional paragraph.
Oh, let's take that out.
You don't want another Keenan training?
Well, I was just going to say, I'm sure Keenan has something.
That's like tuberculosis.
I mean, we can. And I'm being.
No, that's
I'm-
more
I'm-
well, I guess it could be done
Well,
online, but
You could.
That stuff-
resources we don't.
We can also put that on our employee resources if someone wants to read about it.
Put it in your blog.
It's like a one and done.
There you go.
I had over 100 readers this week.
Yay. Does it count us too when we read?
Anybody who
Nice,
clicks it
opens
from
it.
not my computer
Nice,
gets
nice.
counted.
I read
it every week.
I did too.
So if I've gone into it twice, is it count
You're
twice?
2 clicks.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
I know, well, maybe 3. It takes sometimes takes me 3 times.
That's okay. There's probably only 50 people reading it. That's all right. Okay, so next we had suspensions, expulsions, and due process. There were a few things that Nancy Klein just asked us to address because our policy hadn't been updated. So that's why this is at the forefront right now. So we just corrected a few things per her instructions.
Yeah.
So that's why that's there.
Yeah, the
It's
removal of one sentence on page 52.
And that's really what it came down to, the removal of one sentence.
Okay.
So, and she told us to do it, and we said, okay.
Any other questions or comments on this batch?
Smooth sailing to the end now.
Yeah. Pretty straightforward.
All right.
60 pages of fun, kids.
Well, that one was like 12.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that was a lengthy.
Yeah, the long one didn't have a whole lot. I kept going, what are we doing
Me
here?
too. I was like, where is it?
One sentence.
Yep, okay. All right, so 11.4 is our special meeting that's happening on Saturday, the 23rd. And
Excuse me.
Mary, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, let you start since you kind of initiated, and then I'll kind of go through my, or do you want me to go through my list and then you chime in?
Whichever way you want to do it.
Okay. I just started, Mary had asked, I think at agenda setting, after she came back from MIG, that we have some time together that we can really just talk and look at kind of what we want for our district and moving forward with all these things that we keep saying we're gonna keep working on. So, adding to that list, we do need to select with Becky, the two, I showed that to you this morning, Jerry. What did I do with it? Oh, here it is, okay. So on Becky's evaluation tool, we need to select which,
Two items
ASCA,
we're going to
right,
focus on.
that we're gonna focus for her goals, so we can get this finished up. And then, it had been suggested that we try to streamline our board reports, and we need to discuss that. I didn't get feedback from everybody on that, so I wanted to do that in an open forum. I wanted to check in on our board presence at events to make sure that we are using the calendar and that at least we kind of feel like there's at least one board member at school events.
Can I interrupt really quickly? Because I want you all to know that for some reason I came up as a no on everything until I talked to Anna and she goes, I don't know why that happened. I said, looks like I'm not going to anything ever. So it's all fixed, but if you ever looked at it, that wasn't, I didn't go
I
and
never
click
like
no.
racing, so you're okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't go and go, no, no,
And a lot
no,
of
no.
times, that wasn't really relevant. So
Yeah.
I only look on the board chats to see who's supposed to come visit with me in the morning,
Oh.
but I haven't looked to see who's going anywhere else. And then, so the board chat, are we gonna continue that, move it, change the time? What do we think is happening? The mission, it's not even 9. Mission and vision, which I think Mary's gonna chime in a little bit. And then the MIG, how we're gonna keep revisiting that and using that, staff development, funds that we have spent and model the circle of inquiry, or however we wanna look at them. And then ancillary duties. So there's a couple things that, the board president was originally, committees that the board president was gonna sit on, but, I think we just need to see who wants to do those and,
Is
discuss
like
that.
The Friends of Medicine?
Yes.
Okay.
And the MECA. So.
So is this where you want me to chime in?
Sure, so
Well-
Mary can go back to the.
I think the most important thing was our vision, and so I'm going to do a vision, vision and mission statements, and there's some really, and I brought them. There are some good things for us to look at prior to that meeting, so we can start to focus on, if we look at what our core values and beliefs are about education, and we bring that to that meeting, then we have a jumping off place for creating that vision and mission. So I brought you all a copy, which you probably all already have in your books, but now you have one printed out. It clarifies with definitions of what they mean by beliefs and values, so that, anyway, so we're all on the same page.
And I just want to,
And-
after you sent me my email, Mary, I think I was on this kick for a while, and we didn't get very far. So thank you for bringing it back up, and
You're welcome.
we'll give it a whirl again.
And one thing that one of the MIGs, I don't even remember which one Diane and I were at, and they were talking about setting your priorities, and you really can't create a vision and mission if you don't know what your beliefs and values are and then you haven't set priorities, because just making a vision like we want all of our students to graduate and be wonderful citizens that participate in elections or something, we don't have any way of measuring that, and there's so many, anyway, we need to focus in on what it is we actually think is important before we write those vision and missions. So that was the main thing. I have other things too, but I don't know if you want me to read those.
And maybe I should just send that out and just not have people, because it's very well written.
Oh.
So I'll send that out to you guys.
I can write better than I speak.
And Becky, after discussing this at agenda setting, Becky did, anyway, Becky went and found some samples, so we will get those uploaded. Because we all are very busy people, and I don't want to sit and spend 3 hours to do nothing and also spend 3 hours to wordsmith something. So if we, come, like you said, come with our own personal kind of outlook on education, and we have some samples to kind of narrow us, and of course we'll bring what we currently have, but it's very wordy and abstract, I think.
So. I think there's some, we'll have to look in the resource drive that Anna was helping us compile, because I think I pulled a lot of some information from the MIG paperwork.
Okay.
So peek in there in the resource directory. I think there's some information in there.
Anything else that anybody's would like to add on that agenda?
Where are we meeting?
Seems pretty beefy.
Where, I would assume.
It's in the district office.
Yeah.
And Joanne's.
District office.
I'll come here first and then ask.
Well, we have next week too, then we'll remind you that Saturday we're moving over there. And last time we met for 3 hours or so when we did that other one there.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, do we want to do potluck for some food, or do we want to bring a sack lunch?
You
in case
read my
we
mind. I
go
think we should potluck.
through, lunch, working lunch.
Mm-hmm.
You want a potluck?
I think potluck's a great idea.
Okay. Yeah, well, since I don't want to send emails and stuff, do you want to pick some kind of, or just potluck, just bring something to eat? Or do we want to have some kind of an idea, soup and salad, or? Oh, I guess we could do.
We're starting
we could
at
do
what,
brunch,
9 a.m.?
Brunch, 9 to 12.
Okay. Other than gluten-free, are there any food restrictions?
Vegan.
I don't think Anna's going to be there.
Anna's not coming?
No.
Oh, well then. I have to wait for
Oh,
it.
bummer.
Just no beef or chicken.
Gotcha. Does bacon count as? No.
Does
it's
eggs
pork.
count
No
as?
pork, no eggs, fine.
Okay.
No pork. Okay.
I'll eat all his.
Pick it off.
So we'll do
No.
brunch. Do you guys want to do brunchy stuff? Okay.
No
It's like my brother
beef or
says,
chicken,
leave
but
them
you
like
do
that.
eggs. Okay.
Okay.
Lox. Lox is good.
everybody
Lox
come
is
in.
great.
Fish.
And I'll swing by for some food.
So I'm going to make an egg casserole. I'm going to call that so no one else does it.
Okay.
Oh, well, that was going to be my thing.
Was that
I'll
going to be
do-
yours?
That's all right.
Why
do
don't I
bagels.
send out a little
I'll do bagels.
thing and then you can all respond so we know
There
we're
you
not
go.
Ooh,
doubling
if
up.
you want to do that, I'll do a potato thing. Do you want me to do that?
No, go with it. No, you're good. Okay. Anything else about that Saturday? I'll bring the Keurig, so we just keep the coffee going.
Oh, wow, or
Awesome.
tea.
Yeah, it has hot water too.
So I know the board, what is it called? What's our board handbook?
Mhm.
There was a couple items, but I think this is pretty beefy. Would we just save that maybe for around our self-reflection?
That we're supposed to review every year?
Because there was a couple things that I thought might be good to have in there. So it's nice to have new members, because I think there was some protocols that weren't in there. And I think, not that I'm expecting, maybe the parent choice, but what to do at a meeting if there's some conflict, how to resolve that and have that in our board packet, just to kind of reference, what our procedure would be for that.
I
If
think-
anyone Googled Oakland Unified. Just Google it this evening.
Yeah.
No, I've been watching it. It's been tough. For
I,
everybody.
my gut instinct is that if we're gonna try to tackle some vision and mission, that we better
Save
have
that for
that, save that for our,
Yeah, I agree.
board evaluation and/or organizational meeting. Is there any other opinion on that?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Save it.
okay.
Sounds good.
But don't let us forget.
I know.
Which speaking of that, do we want to try to put that meeting into Doodle soon? Because one year we ended up moving it clear to March or something. Because it's supposed to happen in January?
Well, could we do another Saturday workshop in January? MIG does recommend that ideally you do 4 a year. So if we did 2 or 3.
I'm fine with that. I really appreciate that time where we're not sitting here.
Right.
But
Shall I doodle polls the link for mid-January through end of February and pick a few? Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Okay.
tax season.
it is, it's more, yeah.
Well,
It's
if we're going
more-
to do it, you're better before February 1, aren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
January.
already think I have a
January
couple
one.
January things already going on, but it's fine. If I can't be there,
I think it's important that all 5 of us
Well, I
are
know,
there,
but-
but is a weekend bad or better?
better because we're on a rotating Saturday schedule. So
Does Saturdays work for everybody else?
Well, unless something else comes up, it's kind of hard to, out in that time of the year, it's kind of hard to commit to Saturday.
I'll send out the poll and we can see where it looks good.
Or a
and what's
Thursday,
good.
we were supposed to keep Thursdays if we wanted to do a Thursday.
I'll throw Saturdays and Thursdays out there and see what happens. And then I'll
Sounds
let you
good.
know.
We could always do the holiday on the Monday holiday. Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
Make it fun for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Becky would be working that day anyway, so.
Right?
Okay, sorry, I closed my book here. Let's, next meeting next
Advanced planning.
week. Okay, we're on advanced. Okay, we just took
We
care of
just kinda
that.
talked about
Okay. We talked about setting up our evaluation and things like that. Okay. Housekeeping and reminders, lots of conferences happening, booster meeting, tennis shoe Tuesday. This time I think, let me try to find somebody to meet up with. Diana and I did that once. It was fun. Lots of site councils, those are all on our calendars. And then we'll be here next Thursday. And that's at 6, right? No closed
Yes.
session.
No, there's no closed.
Okay.
So I'll go to DLAC on Tuesday, just to let you know.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try to go to the high school stuff.
Oh, there's a
But-
band boosters meeting on Tuesday, so I can't do Dana Gray because I got to go to band, but,
Is the band booster meeting on there?
no.
Glad that.
But I just talked to Nathan today, so it's definitely happening.
At what time?
6, I believe.
On Tuesday.
So, you're saying you would have gone to the Dana Gray
I guess I
Parent
could
Club?
go for half an hour and then go over there.
Because I'll check my calendar.
I'm the Dana Gray person. I'm supposed to be going to those, so.
Okay.
All right, gang. Anything else? Public?
Anyone?
All right.
Motion to
to
adjourn.
Look at that, before 9 PM, kids.
Second. Okay, there we go.